Southeast Supervisory Union School Board, and tonight is our regularly scheduled monthly meeting. And it is now called to order. Are there any changes or additions to the agenda? Christine, do you have?
Yeah, we were going to add a correspondence prior to items for discussion.
Okay.
And we'll add that as a section of every agenda forward.
Thank you.
Yep.
And let me see, so that is one change to the agenda. I will take a motion to approve the minutes from August 22nd.
Motion to approve.
That was Rebecca made that motion and Nikki the second. Are there any corrections, clarifications, additions that need to be made to the minutes of August 22nd? Hearing none, I will start with the online people, and then I'll go around the room. Bev,
Yay.
Colleen.
I'm going to abstain.
Oh, Colleen. Oh, okay. Yeah, I went to Colleen Deschamps. I was like, no, I meant Colleen Spence. Okay.
I haven't had a chance to read them.
Okay. Colleen Spence is abstaining. Davis,
Abstain.
Jamie,
Jamie left the meeting.
Jamie left. Rebecca,
Yes.
Nicole,
Yes.
Bill.
Hi.
It is, oh, and Nancy.
Abstain.
Nancy is abstaining. Okay, thank you. The minutes have passed. Moving on to public participation and announcements. Is there anyone in our public who would like to speak on items not related to the agenda?
I would.
Okay. And your name?
My name is Betty Brooks. Do I talk now?
Yes.
My name is Betty Brooks. I'm a retired teacher. For the last 9 years, I've been pretty much the only substitute teacher in Wethersfield. And I can tell you, I love the job, but I'm getting too old. And I am here to request that you increase the pay. The pay now is $100 a day. Minimally, you need to be at school 7 hours. That amounts to $14 an hour. It's not enough pay. We need people to come in there to work and manage kids and teach. It's not an easy job. And I think that if you could raise the pay, maybe you'd be getting some more people to do the job. I'm 80 years old. I've been doing this job for 9 years. I'd like to see, I'm not asking for money for me. I'm asking for more money for the next person who comes in to work. Especially, hopefully we could find young mothers, but $100 a day is not enough money. $14 an hour, if any of you think it's an easy job, you're in Never Never Land. It's not
It's not
an easy job. And, you know, they can go to work for McDonald's for more than $14 an hour and probably talk about set their own hours too. I just would like to request that you consider at least a $25 a day increase.
Thank you for that information. That will be
So sort of
taken
the,
into consideration when we start working on the budget.
well, at the same time though, we already passed that. We already, as a board, it was, I think, 2 years ago.
We just went up to 100.
I think 2 years
We
ago.
just
you
put it up
raised
to 100?
That's correct. When I first started working 9 years ago, the pay was $70 a day. And every
Okay.
couple of years, I've asked for a raise. I never in my life had to ask for a raise, but I asked for a raise, and slowly but surely, about 2, maybe 3 years ago, it got raised to $100.
Okay.
But it's not enough.
Oh, goodness, no. My apologies. I It was part of thinking of the future. But yes,
Well, and I understand for the budget for the next year, but it needs to happen now so that we can get somebody to do this job. BJ, only place I've worked is Weathersfield, but BJ has to take paras off of their other jobs in order to cover for classrooms that don't have anybody there. And I just would like to say that you need to really discuss the fact that that pay needs to be increased,
Thank you.
okay?
thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Betty. Nice to see you, Betty.
Nice to see you too.
And thank you for doing the
Yeah,
work.
thank you for the
Thank
work you
you.
do.
Oh,
because
thank you.
It's not easy for classroom teachers and for someone to come in and take over from that. We can all remember from our school days
Yes.
of substitute teachers.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
so,
And
thank
they're
you.
always thankful
Thank
when
you for the
when I'm
work you
there,
do.
but it is time for me to stop working.
Thank
for
you.
listening.
Thank you so much. Yes.
And thank you for coming down.
Oh, you're very welcome. To me, it was just better than being on that. I could have done that.
Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
That can be for a future agenda.
Yeah.
All right. Are there any other public participation?
I have
Is there any other public participation? We're on to announcements.
just an announcement that the applications for the State Youth Council are open. And they'll be going through, I think, mid-October, I believe is the date. And we are advertising that to all our students with the hope that some will apply to be part of that council. So, exciting.
Great, that is
Yeah.
exciting. I hope some of our students do.
Is it, sorry,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
is it possible, if you're announcing it to the students, is it possible to, for the parents to get that announcement also, so that they can encourage? I mean, so that they can maybe have a conversation with their students about it, but also encourage them if they feel that
Yeah.
their child is someone who can participate in that.
Yeah,
opportunity.
absolutely.
Oh, great.
And
Put on the list, so I don't forget, sorry.
are there any other announcements? Thank you. We are on to our administrative report. Oh, I'm sorry. I do have an announcement for all school board members. This coming Thursday, which is September 29th at 6 o'clock, there is a virtual Vermont School Board Association regional meeting. And the main topics of discussion will be looking at the governance requirements that the state will, that the state has put together, and also information about a mini grant for equity work. And there will be a short business meeting as well for the Windsor region. And you can go online to register for that. There was an email that got sent out. Hopefully most of you received it. That also has the link of how to register for that meeting, so you'll get the Zoom link for Thursday. And I hope everyone has an opportunity to participate in that meeting. Thanks. And now, oh, yes,
Do superintendents go to that meeting? I got an invite,
they
so.
are, certainly.
Okay.
Would you like the link?
I got it, so I was like, oh, do I do this? So I'll
Okay,
sign up.
okay, great. Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, because Secretary French often attends and
Okay.
provides an update on what's happening in the state. And now,
All righty. Present the screen. Okay. So I'm going to just start. I know it seems like a while ago, but I said that I would share a little bit about the opening of schools in this report tonight. So we started with new teachers on the 24th. Oh, sorry, my screen did something funny. And we met in this room. We had about 30 new people in here, I would estimate. We did a fun icebreaker. We did shared important information. You could see Tina Canfield up front. She was sharing some HR-related information, some frontline information. That's where our teachers are recording professional development, logging in for coverage if they need a sub. So that's our all-inclusive system. And then each new faculty member got time to meet with their mentors, which was great. They had lunch together and had the afternoon in their buildings with their mentors. So it was a great first start. We followed up the next day, 2 days later. The staff actually had their prep day first this year, their classroom prep day, which we've heard really good feedback around. They appreciated being able to put their things in order. It allowed them to focus better on professional development after. I think we're all like that, so they really did appreciate that. So we welcomed all staff on the 26th. We had some introductions. We really reviewed and celebrated the strategic plan and the work we've done so far. And we actually showed the video that we shared with the community at the community forum last spring. So they got to see that. We did a little direction alignment commitment to see where we're at with staff. We're just looking at that, digging into that data now. Pretty good on direction and commitment. Our alignment needs a little bit of work, so that's where we'll be focusing. Angie shared the curriculum work plan, and Brittany shared the professional learning management system, that differentiated professional learning plan, which is new for staff this year, a new system to house it, and it gives them more voice and choice in what they're learning. And we had a multi-tiered systems of supports update. We kept it short, just the morning, and staff had some time to do some building-based work as well. But the feeling was very positive. Staff seemed happy to be back. We kept it light. We played a little Kahoot game and learned about each other, so it was fun.
Just a moment.
yeah. Go back.
I felt very bad for not being here to welcome everyone, as I've been able to do in the past. But I was at my own open school day for new teachers at my job, so.
And Amy let us know that she couldn't make it that day. And we totally understood, because she's been working in a school. On that day, some individual teams met. There was time for that. I just wanted to let you know that the middle level folks got together. That's Jacob in the background, Meager. He's one of the leaders of the team. And they really were talking about their goals for the year, which is consistency in the advisory program, how they're going to implement the Leader in Me components, personalized learning plans, PLPs for students, and student engagement. It was a really good meeting, and the three leaders of the middle level team are Jacob Meager from Windsor, Michael Butts from Heartland, and then Jay Vila from Weathersfield. So we have good representation. And they're really leading. Angie and I meet with them and kind of talk about the agenda, but they're leading the work, which is wonderful.
That's so exciting. Jacob Meager was my son's classmate, so it's really exciting to see school graduates back.
Yeah.
And
He's also the new
leading.
JV boys basketball coach.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
wow. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's cool.
Yeah, he's doing a great job. We had each building had their own Leader in Me training day, depending on where they were at. It was either Core 1 review or reboot, we called it, and one school was ready to move into Core 2. So each school had their own individualized training. I'm going to show you in just a moment a little bit of a video about how it's going from one of the teachers. Couldn't help it. First day. Kids were happy to be back. Staff were happy to be back. The vibe was very positive. I think knock on wood, COVID kind of in the rear view mirror felt really good for people. And the focus has just been on, was on getting to know students, schedules, that kind of thing. But overall, it was a really positive start. Um, Oh, okay. I'm gonna play the video so the sound is. Just play it. Okay.
Hi, SU Board. My name is Anna Brooks. I am a first grade teacher at the Heartland Elementary School, and I am also a Lighthouse coordinator here at the school. I visited a Leader in Me school several years ago with a group, and I remember walking into the school, being greeted by children, and being toured around the school by the students, and remembering how amazing that was, and thinking, oh my gosh, I want this. From the classroom data hung in the classrooms, which at that point I didn't really understand fully, and the mission statements hung on the classroom doors, and the cohesiveness of the school was remarkable. And now I get to say I get to do this. I get to do this every day in my classroom, and it feels so good to be a part of a school that's moving forward in such a proactive way. And our 21-22 school year goal was to learn and live the 7 habits. And I think some of us did that more than others. Just from being a part of the Lighthouse team, I was able to really bring that into my classroom. And I can say without a doubt, last year was one of the toughest teaching years I've ever been through. I cried a lot, but those first graders left in such a good headspace and as such leaders in our school, and adults were recognizing it, and the students were recognizing it, and they recognized that in themselves. And that was such an important piece for them to see in themselves, that the leader is in me. I love this year having students come into my classroom, having some of that common language, and really building off of the 7 habits each and every day through actions and teachable moments, having those displayed and just using language so frequently throughout the day. Remember your habits. What are your habits? Good habits make good routines make great leaders. Be proactive. Nice job having a plan. You thought ahead. Work first, then play. Just today, I had 2 students who did not complete all of their morning work. It happens, right? We have things that pop up in our morning. And after literacy centers, they sat down, they completed their morning work without being asked, and then came up so proud. I completed my morning work. Look, nice job thinking ahead. You had a plan. Go out to run about. Nice job. But just seeing them thrive in their own bodies and being like, oh my gosh, I can do this. I'm in charge of me. This is my school. This is my opportunity. I get to be at school and do all of these amazing things. It's taking it off of Anna Brooks, who likes to be in control, and putting it on the students and putting it in their hands every single day. We've created leadership roles in the classroom, which has taken a couple weeks to try to tease out what the students are really wanting to take control of in the classroom. And we've made a list of those back here, and students get to sign up and try out new roles in the classroom. We take them off, we add new ones, and every day we're tweaking things and figuring out new roles that students like to try. Today I had the literacy centers going, the timer went off, and I had a student stand up and actually give positive feedback before we rotated to the next station, just off a whim. They came up and did it. Really nice job. You're thinking ahead. You're being proactive. Oh, it looks like you need to clean up your center before we switch. but they're first graders, they're 6, and they're taking control of their own learning. And it's so powerful to see working in your classroom. And that's not a Miss Brooks thing. That's a student thing. That's what they're doing on their own. They're leading themselves. So leadership roles have been going great. And then our mission statement has also taken a couple weeks to come to fruition. And it's all about discovering their hopes and dreams and talking about being kind and respectful and responsible and safe. All of those things that we've done all along at Heartland Elementary, but now bringing it into a new light with Leader in Me and connecting it with the 7 habits and really giving the kids language to articulate what they want out of their year. They have named it their first grade story, and we read it every single day. And it is just a great way to start our day. And our first grade story, if I can pull it up and see you at the same time, goes like this. We, the first grade, promise to have fun each day, try new things, make new friends, and learn all that we can. We will work hard to be kind, respectful, responsible, and safe, and to build new habits that will help us become great leaders. And that is what they came up with. That is what they hope and dream for their school year. And that is what they reflect on every single day, even in the hard moments. If it didn't go okay, we let it go. We take a leadership lab moment. So thinking about Leader in Me with behavior has really changed the scape of our school, I think. Our SEIs now have common language to work off of. So when a student is showing unexpected behavior, we talk about the habits. We read the room before they come back. Where do you need to be? What did you learn? And it's really coming full circle. It doesn't feel as choppy. So it's a nice piece to add universally to our school. Just the cohesiveness that Leader in Me is bringing to our daily routines at public school. I couldn't be more proud to be a part of the team and to be working and building these foundational skills because they are our future. And I'm really excited to see how this plays out in the next couple of years as we get deeper into WIGs and goal setting and really giving the kids more voice and choice in their education. It's just a really exciting path to be on. So thank you.
So I would like to start by telling you a story about bagels.
Yeah, no, go back here.
When I was growing up in Nigeria,
Back here. Yeah.
You gotta
Share this screen. Oh, yeah, right.
That was amazing.
Oh, and
I want to be in Miss Brooks' first grade class.
Yeah, I would also, I agree. I think that sounds like an amazing first grade class. I do have a question though attached to that because she spoke about leadership roles that are created. And I am just wondering if that is across all classrooms where leadership roles are created and all students have an opportunity to participate in those roles. Because I think that first grade, to start that sort of exposure is amazing.
Yes, that is part of Leader in Me. The students, again, it's at various stages across the supervisory union, but teachers work with students to come up with what leadership roles do you think we need?
Okay.
And they get to try them out. Eventually, the goal would be to have school-wide leadership roles that the kids come up with, and they can apply for those roles and test them out within the school.
They have job descriptions
Yes.
attached and then.
No, I think that's amazing.
Yes.
That's powerful.
Yeah, and Anna couldn't come tonight, but she agreed to video, and I don't know, it gave me the chills watching herself. I think she did a good job. So.
She's also very well spoken.
She is, yeah. Those are her leadership roles. She sent a couple pictures, so I just put those in for you to see. But it is. I think the implementation is going well in all the schools, even though they're at different places. But that's the goal of Core 1, leadership roles, class mission statements, and the 7 habits, direct teach, yeah. So,
And if I understand correctly, I think at some point we were going to hear a little bit about where you are now with that and how far you've gotten. Is that part of the Core 1?
So Core 1 is being rebooted in Weathersfield, Albert Bridge, and Windsor School. And then Core 2 at Heartland is where the students are going to be setting their own goals. The other 3 schools will be getting their Core 2 training in January. So our goal is that everyone is at Core 2 by the end of June 2023. So that all, like, students have had some practice setting goals. That's K-8, because 9-12 looks a little bit different. So.
okay. Eventually, we'd like to bring some students to talk to you about it, so we'll get there. So I'm very excited to bring you a name tonight for the position of Coordinator of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. As you know, I reported we were interviewing, we found the right person. His name is Ethan Lawrence. He's here, I think, in the meeting tonight. He is able to join us part-time this year, and we have met and we've worked out a part-time job description with him. And he's ready to begin his work following your approval. So I think we'll probably need to add that for items for action. And we just met, actually, Katie, myself, Sergio, Angie, and Mary Gannon, who you probably all remember from our work here. See, I didn't do that. But Mary has agreed. Mary has agreed to mentor Ethan in this role, so we're very excited about that. She's doing that for other DEI coordinators, the one at Hartford as well. So Ethan comes to us with a Bachelor of a BA from St. Anselm's College in Manchester, New Hampshire. He has a Master of Social Work in Transformative Social Work from the University of Vermont. He is currently a special educator at Rivendell in the Expedition Classroom, and he chairs the local JEDI committee in Windsor. And he's done that for the past couple of years. So that is Ethan, and we'll look forward to your approval of that position later on in the agenda.
Does he want to pop
Does he
up
want
and
to
say hi?
introduce? Sure. Ethan, do you want to unmute and say hello to the board and the community members who are here?
Sure. Hi, can you hear me? Hi, how's it going? Well, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. Yeah, my name is Ethan Lawrence. I'm very honored to be considered for this position. I live in Windsor. Just a little bit more about, I guess, me, if it's helpful. I live in Windsor. I actually grew up in Hartford and went through the Hartford public school system. And I know the Upper Valley really well. I mean, this has been my home, and as a kid, and then now my chosen home. And so I really care about this community, and I really love the people that are here. And I've particularly worked with kind of disadvantaged kids for pretty much entirely my career in some form. Actually really connected with a member of the public tonight that was talking about being a substitute teacher and the really need for really solid pay there and an increase. Definitely echo my support. But I did some substitute teaching, and that was one of the first ways in which I started to see inequities in schools. And so I'm really honored to be considered for this. And if you have any questions about me and my background or what I'd like to bring to the table, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thanks. Thank you, Ethan. All right. Any questions at the moment? No. Okay. It's exciting. Yeah, it's very exciting. Just a quick strategic plan update, because that is our focus, moving that plan forward. I've sent out an invitation to community members, parents, to join us for moving the vision forward. There'll be 4 sessions this year with Mike Nicholson, who was our consultant who helped us with our core competencies and our portrait and our strategic plan. We have a parent advisory council that he'll be meeting with. We have about 9 community parents who have agreed to be part of that. He'll be helping us with some staff professional learning as well when he's here. And we have a student advisory council that he'll be meeting with about, I think I'm up to 11 students, invited 20. So getting them to check their emails and respond. So the first session is October 7th. Love for any board members who can make it to join us. On the 7th, it will be serving dinner at 5:30. It will be at Heartland Elementary School on October 7th. I'll make sure you get that invite. I'll send it to you at the end of the meeting if you haven't seen it. And then Mike will be working with us. So we're very excited about that as well. And then just a couple of other updates before I let Larry do a little bit of updating on some central office things. Just to keep you posted, school safety is of utmost importance right now, always, but we're just really trying to make sure that our buildings have been looked at and our staff is well trained and know what to do in case of an emergency. I have been meeting with our SRO, Officer Paul, Larry, Jim. We are meeting regularly, really, to make sure we have protocols in place and everybody knows what to do. And it's very, there are lots of moving parts when you really start thinking about it and diving in. Like, you know, where will triage be? Where will the command post be? Who calls this person? You know, so there's a lot of details that we're trying to flush out and get laid out so that everybody knows. And then we're going to practice because we have to. But so that's an ongoing thing that we're working on.
When do you anticipate having some sort of a plan?
So Paul thinks it's going to take us a few months to get a real, and all the schools have emergency management plans. These are the fine details, more of the SU, what we're going to be doing if there's an emergency. And in schools, I think the requirement, we're back to drills this year. We've been on a break from them during COVID. So each school is responsible for three options-based drills this year, which means our new protocols, children are taught that they have options, and staff are taught there are options if there's an emergency. We used to sit them in the corner of the room and wait. We don't do that anymore. They can barricade, they can fight back, throw things, or they can evacuate and run. So those are the options, and they get to choose in these types of situations. Teachers get to choose what to do based on where people are at in the building and what's going on. So we have to practice that in a non-threatening, non-traumatic way, which is complicated. So I think the first ones are just going to talk through. So we are working on those as well. There is a safety convening, a governor's safety convening in, I think, November that some of us are going to go to as well. So doing everything we can. Our equity audit is underway. Data collection phase ends next week, and then we'll move on to the next phase, which will be some focus groups, some surveys. So we'll keep you updated on that. You probably will get contacted for some of it, I'm imagining. And then our COVID updates, we've had 0 cases at Heartland, Albert Bridge, and Wethersfield. We did have a small number of cases at Windsor, 5 students and 5 staff. So that's not great that we had cases, but it's in control. Yeah, knock on the Formica. Yeah. And just to let you know, nurses are working on setting up flu clinics at local schools. It sounds like they may be family clinics, like on a Sunday you drive up and they're in the parking lot. That's what Windsor's working on, and the other schools as well. So I'll keep you posted on those. Yeah.
When there is a COVID case, what exactly I know that the nurses, what is the protocol?
The protocol now is the nurse makes the call. The nurse gets to decide if the student, if a student is sent to the office, the nurse's office, and the student is sick. The nurse makes the call on whether the student needs to, call the parent. Can we test? Whether that student is sent home, masked in the building. They stay out for, think minimum 5 days until they're starting to, if they're starting to feel better, they can come back. I mean, the CDC guidance is still wear a mask after 5 days if you've been sick. I think most people do that. And we let classrooms know if there are, if there's a need for that, if there's a student with a particular health issue.
We let the
we let
families
we let
of
the
that
family know.
particular
Student know.
situation know if there's a medical need.
Okay, so that
Or
you
medical
let the parents
notification.
of the kids that are in the classroom, if there is a need, you let.
If there is a need,
You
yeah.
let the.
Yeah, we're not notifying every classroom every time.
Okay,
And not every family in the classroom, just if, let's say, student A, it's only student A's parents will be made aware because the student A may have has a medical issue that needs to know if they may have been exposed.
okay.
So it's not a whole classroom notification.
And then that's worked out well where.
So far, yeah, so far, yeah. Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. Okay, Larry, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, Larry's gonna take over.
So these are the fiscal year 22, which was last school year. They're not totally final financials. They will change a little bit, but not much, based on sometimes we don't get special ed revenue from the state until it could be as late as December for the previous fiscal year. So barring that, what you're seeing up there is that there was a surplus in all the programs, and that's the bottom box. The general fund is $265,225. Early childhood, which is a separate fund, is $91,358. Food services has a surplus of $97,251. So that's how we ended last school year. And we hoped in October to have the first quarter financials, like we do for July, August, September of this fiscal year. Meanwhile, we're also working on the fiscal year 24 budget with the SU Budget Committee. We've already met once and we'll meet in early October with them. So we're working on 3 different budgets at once. There were some questions at the last Mount Scutney meeting, and I thought we just do a quick overview. Since everybody on the Mount Scutney board is also on the SU board, and it will affect other schools, since everything in technology is an SU function. Just give you a heads up on our Chromebook deployment, how it's rolling out. So if you see, 2 years ago, we did 5 through 8. Last year, we did 9 through 12. And this year, we're doing grade 3, 5. There was a question of, how are we refreshing Chromebooks? And basically, I lean a lot on Mike Walker for what those grades are. The average lifespan of a Chromebook we've been getting is about 5 years. So, for example, if the high school gets new Chromebooks, then those filter down to the other schools for 5 through 8, and then so on and so forth, knowing that the high school generally uses the Chromebooks more than, say, first graders. Therefore, they would get the highest RAM, the best speeds. And it was kind of touch and go during COVID, obviously, because of the supply chain. But we got in early, so we were pretty lucky last year to get what we got. We're also running a pilot with one classroom in Weathersfield, one classroom in Windsor for touchscreen Chromebooks for kindergarten, and see how that goes. We wanted to do it for a while, and again, it was hard to get it during COVID, so we got some now.
They struggle with the mouse.
Yeah.
That's why.
So, next. And then just to give you an idea, we centralized in 2019-20 all of the SU equipment at the SU. And as you can see, that 194 number on the far left, that's when every school had their own tech equipment line. Since 1920, we brought it under the umbrella of SU Tech. And as you can see now, I can't, 24, that's going to be a little bump up from the 121, but it's in draft form. We'll see what the budget committee does with it. But right now, you can see that there's been a lot of, consolidation, savings. If we had kept flat line at that 194 number in 1819, if we had just had a flat budget, you would have spent, among all the schools, $169,100. And that's only over 4 or 5 years. So that's what we've been doing with Chromebooks. The next that came up was about transportation, and just wanted a background, give you an overview. I know there's some newer people on the board. We haven't been talking a lot about transportation since during COVID. So just to bring everybody up to date, Act 153, which was passed in 2010, is the same law that mandated the special ed be at the SU and HR be at the SU level. It also mandated that transportation be an SU function. Our current provider is Student Transportation of Vermont, and we're under contract with them. They won the RFP back in 2020 through 25. So in the last year of that contract, we will go out with another RFP. I manage transportation. That's part of my umbrella and my responsibility. Next.
Ready for the next one?
Yeah, the next one is, this is kind of what my life's been like. Because one thing that's different with SU transportation this year, which was not necessarily the case, is now we have different SU programs at different buildings. So for example, the ACE program is at Windsor, but students from other schools, yeah.
What is ACE?
Academic Community and Excellence.
Woohoo!
Academic Community and Excellence is housed at Windsor, and Katie oversees that program. But we have students from other districts coming. So that creates a transportation challenge. Also TK, which is Transition Kindergarten, also overseen by Katie, is housed at Heartland, and we have students from other places coming. We also have the interdistrict choice that Albert Bridge and Windsor have opened up with the Mount Scottney School District, which has provided another challenge. And then Bridging the Gap, I think we've come up with a solution for that, so the students aren't waiting on a bus like they were. We're getting them, West Windsor kids, to Windsor for Bridging the Gap, and not having it so it's a van. They're able to just let them out of school a little bit earlier and then take them right to Bridging the Gap, so they don't have to wait or have Jennifer or April tied up driving the van.
Which is what we were doing.
Which is what we were doing.
Yeah.
Which we knew wasn't a long-term solution.
Right. And the algebra bus, yeah, we have that as well, the algebra bus.
The algebra bus, yeah.
But we've
So-
Larry's managed to really make it work, so. And that's the end of that report. Angie has the curriculum report as part of the administrative report as well, but she's gonna share her screen on that, yes? Okay.
A few people have been coming in, just so you know.
Okay, I will pay attention.
Well, Angie set up, can I ask Larry a couple of questions? So when you say you manage the busing, do you manage routes?
No, I don't, we kind of work on the routes with the bus company.
Okay.
The bus company manages the routes.
Okay.
And it's sort of like, I want as much time as the principals can spend on academics and the teachers and everything else. So obviously the principals are involved in some way, especially when there's a bus and they need to, like what happened with Albert Bridge, I think it was last week when it was running late and Jennifer sent out the message. But no, I don't manage the routes,
Okay.
the individual drop-offs.
Do you,
I try to help out with the ACE and the TK. That's something I was involved in.
do you know of any other districts in Vermont that function self-transportation, kind of like we do the kitchen here?
Yeah, there must be some still left.
Okay.
I know there's fewer than there was 15 years ago.
Right.
But there must be some left.
Okay. Saying we have till 25, it might be interesting at least to investigate
Yeah.
their perspective on it.
Yeah, we have time and I can look into that.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's that?
Thank you, Larry.
Yep, you got it.
Gonna regret not having my water bottle, I'm afraid. So, tonight's presentation is to help you present to you the things that are happening in the curriculum, instruction, and assessment arena. My team is here, Brittany and Patty, and they have, when it gets to their section of the presentation, they'll be sharing with you the activities that they are doing. So I am Angie Ledoux. For those of you online who don't know who I am the curriculum director and the federal grants manager. The presentation tonight is hoping that you get a sense of what we do in the curriculum office. There's a lot of things. Big rocks and smaller rocks are the way that in Leader in Me that we refer to our big goals and our smaller goals. So there's several areas in which we are working in curriculum. You're going to hear about, and I can't read it, sorry, I got to just move that window. We're going to give you an overview of the summer work that we did, the work coming up on Curriculum Thursdays, various things that we're supporting the leadership teams, Leader in Me's support, and the Eureka 2.0 pilot, which is our math program. In instruction, we're going to talk about instructional leadership, the MTSS upgrades, professional learning management tools, instructional coaching, the mentor program, supervision evaluation, and universal design for learning, and an assessment, the behavior logging tool, and the local assessment tools review. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what's happening with the ESSER grants and with the title grants, the consolidated federal program grants. So let's start off with building a strong foundation for the year. Summer work, we did a lot of summer work. This slide, and I will not read it to you, this slide just shows you all the people that took advantage of, first of all, the leftmost column, those two columns are all the teachers that applied for and submitted work for interdisciplinary unit development. The greenish column is the Eureka 2.0 pilot. These are the teachers that participated in a training that Patty offered to get them set up to be successful in the pilot that is throughout this school year. The gray one is the Leader in Me online training I offered for any new teachers, if they wanted to on their own time, explore the Leader in Me portal. And there were trainings in the 7 Habits and also in Core 1 to help get them up to speed. And these were the teachers that took advantage of that training. And then the Lighthouse teams in the yellow, they were the team members that came together in the second week of August to have trainings in planning their year and what it would look like when the staff came back. Some other things that was happening, and I'm not sure, Katie, if I got the numbers right, but Summer Academy, about 100 kids. Yep, 40-ish staff, maybe give or take. I didn't get the numbers right, and then I'm like, Katie's probably in her presentation going to talk about Summer Academy at some point this year.
Yeah, when I present,
Yeah.
about 35, including volunteers.
So it's pretty close.
You were
40
pretty
staff.
close. Very good.
And it was 5 weeks?
4 weeks.
It was 4 weeks, okay. We did some software and systems work that was the bulk of Brittany's work this summer, and she's going to tell you more about that. We had 20 plus new teachers here at orientation, and the mentor program is a little bit different this year from my perspective because Katie's running a new program through the Agency of Education to provide special mentoring for special educators. They need something different and more comprehensive, and that's a program that she is working with her staff on. And I have 9 mentors and 2 more being trained, so that they are all working with people. So Curriculum Thursdays, first, second, and third Thursdays of every month are dedicated to curriculum work after school. It's starting with us building the foundation, strengthening our proficiency-based system that will allow flexibility for all our students. Then we are going to reflect and plan forward, looking at the content and having our teacher teams make recommendations for what curriculum and program review may look like moving forward, because we know that has budgetary implications. Aligning transferable skills. The learning expectations are not aligned with the language in the Portrait of Graduate, nor the language of the 7 Habits and Leader in Me. And part of the work this year will be aligning that with our learning expectations for our transferable skills. And then if we have time, curriculum mapping is an important step as we strengthen our proficiency-based system more. And then looking forward to FY24, we will be looking at assessment, formative and summative assessment. Other priorities, I am working with the principals on instructional leadership. I meet bi-weekly with every principal, every building principal, to talk about a problem of practice, and with a student learning problem, and then a teacher learning problem, a teacher problem of practice. And then we look at what the principal's practice is going to be in order to support that teacher or that group of teachers that are identified as the inquiry group, and then so that the principal can see the direct line to improve student outcomes. Of course, Leader in Me implementation, and then the self-determined learning project that we are working on with the professional development with Mike Nicholson and the visioning work. I forgot that I had, that's just great presentation skills. I forgot that I was going to tell you a little bit more, but I already told you all these things about instructional leadership. Leader in Me, Core 1 and Core 2, I explained that a little bit earlier, that we are working on Core 1 in all the buildings. Heartland is a little bit ahead of everybody else with Core 2, but everybody will be working on Core 2 I would say by spring, and moving forward into looking for a strong start to FY24. Self-determined learning, 4 half-day learning sessions, and it is going to be great work. So we have leadership teams in the following areas. We have the middle level team that Christine told you about earlier. The trauma-informed team leaders are Patty Gray and Jen Aldrich. The wellness team is Annette Jennings and Elizabeth Martins, and the diversity, equity, inclusion team is Sergio Katie and Ethan Lawrence and Jen Durham, which I didn't know. Is she going to be
She's the
leader?
Team, the faculty
team
leader.
So I didn't know that then. I'll have to add that to this slide. In grants management, ESSER 2, we are trying to get that done. Fully spent. It should be, we invested in our self-determined learning consultant and our equity audit with ESSER 2 for this year. And it should pretty much be, we might have a little bit left to try to figure out how to spend, but our goal is to spend that whole thing. And the recovery plan, we did report out on the recovery plan at the end, in May. It was required by the end of May, and I'm certain there will be another report out at the end of this school year. Title I, we have 2 interventionists in 2 positions in both Windsor and Heartland. We still have an open position in Windsor as a title interventionist. A classroom teacher came out of the classroom to become a Title I interventionist at the primary level here in Windsor, which is excellent. I'm very happy that that teacher agreed to do that. The continuous improvement plan really drives our title funding, and so I'm going to be at the end of this talking to you a little bit more about the continuous improvement plan. I had to make a few changes in it, and then I'm going to be asking the board to approve that and items for action tonight, just because the agency wants to see that we brought it to the board and that it's in the board minutes, and I forgot to do that last time. So ARP ESSER 3, we had Summer Academy, we have transitional kindergarten, those teaching positions that are still in that, and Leader in Me. When we're during budget season, we'll be moving some of those investments into local budgets. And then we have the ARP ESSER plan, which as we add to it, the ESSER 3 budget has to be fully funded by the November 1st. And so as I do that, I have to inform the public and inform our staff of any differences in the plan that we make. And of course, all that information can be found on the website, on the curriculum instruction and assessment website. So Brittany, you wanna come on?
Yep, I'm right here. Hi, everybody. It's nice to see you all. I'll try to move through things quickly, but of course, if you have questions along the way, don't hesitate to ask. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the MTSS and data coordinator for the SU, which was a new position last year, formerly known as the recovery coordinator. So it's kind of shifted into kind of what we're looking forward to for the future. So Angie mentioned that I worked a lot this summer on a couple of different projects to get ready for the school year. One was building an MTSS Resource Center website. That is a staff-facing website, kind of a one-stop shop with professional development opportunities listed, It has our calendars on there. It has a lot of different resources for how we manage our MTSS systems. So we've gotten a lot of great feedback on that, and it's something that we're going to continue to build over the course of the school year. Frontline, we already had Frontline involved with Frontline Central and doing some of our AmpSense management, and now we moved into professional growth, and our evaluation system is now housed on there. It's actually a really cool system. We're doing a slow rollout, but basically I can add in all of our professional learning opportunities into the system for staff to sign up for. So we have a catalog of opportunities, staff sign up. They can track all of their professional development in there. And from an SU standpoint, what's nice is we can see what staff are taking, what strategic plan goal areas we're working on most. It will also align with our evaluation system, which will be great. So a principal can say, hey, I could really use some work on this area. Why don't you go find a PD opportunity that aligns? And they can do that all right within one system. So while we are rolling that out slowly, it seems to be catching hold and staff seem to really like it. Behavior management system, that is a plugin that Larry actually found for us. It's called MBA, and it plugs into PowerSchool, so it's kind of all in one spot. Staff can go in. I was able to customize it with a couple of different staff members over the summer to make sure it matched what we want to report out on. And so all staff are using that now. Right now, I'm meeting with each school's team to talk about how we're looking at that data, how we're using it, and how we're going to report out on it in the future so that we can really be using it to make effective change in our schools. See. Perfect. Okay. Next steps with Frontline. Like I said, we're rolling it out slowly. We are currently we were doing the essential trainings. I'm also putting all of our PD on Frontline system, and I'm using a Google form for staff to sign up for so that we don't overwhelm people. People can have a choice between how they're doing that for now. However, all of our course approval forms are on there and our evaluation system is on there. That seems to be going really well. We're jumping into evaluations coming up pretty soon where staff will start accessing some of those things. By February, we're going to kind of gauge and get some feedback from people, but we hope to be fully implementing Frontline professional growth within the schools. We'll continue to provide additional training. We can also expand our use in this to include trainers. So an instructor or trainer can schedule their own course. They can track their own PD within there. They can hold groups in the learning system. So there's a lot that can be done, and I'm really excited to see us continue to move forward. Next slide. Perfect. Differentiated professional learning. This is something we had a team last year, our differentiated professional learning team. They worked really hard to figure out what our priorities are for this year, and now we'll work to figure out what it's going to look like for the following year. This year, we rolled out our foundation, which is a professional.
Brittany?
Can you hear me?
Brittany, can you just back up? You glitched out there for a second. So just if you want to start again with differentiated professional
Yep, I
learning.
think can you hear me still or no?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. So our foundational professional learning is just the skills that we want all teachers to have. So every teacher got a professional learning profile that outlined exactly what they needed. And it's just a way for us to make sure that all teachers are speaking the same language regarding our curriculum, collaborative problem solving, trauma-informed practice, those kinds of things. Leader in Me is another one. We also wanted to provide voice and choice, so they have a variety of opportunities that they can choose from on our PD days. We have a PD calendar that, while certainly we can continue to add to it, it's outlined for the entire year, so staff know when some of our professional learning opportunities are going to be offered, and they can sign up at any point. And just providing as many options as we can for staff, and we're going to continue to build that, especially as we build in some train the trainers. Go ahead to the next slide.
Brittany, Rebecca has a question for you.
With the foundational professional development, you indicated that you want to make sure that all staff have a foundational overview of programs that are being used and accessing, talking similar language. Are you saying that all staff have to take certain professional development opportunities that the school is offering?
Short answer is yes. So basically what we said is we have, like, collaborative problem solving is a great example. A couple years ago, we got all staff trained in the tier 1 for collaborative problem solving. But during COVID, things didn't quite get kept up with. And so we missed some staff, and we want to make sure that all staff have at least a minimum. So this year we came up with what we call exposure trainings. So staff need to have at least a bare minimum of the exposure training, which will be offered twice for collaborative problem solving, twice for trauma-informed practices. And they have to go ahead and they have to either take that, or they can seek out to take something higher than that, such as tier 1 in collaborative problem solving, which is a class. So we just want to be speaking the same language and make sure everybody has what they need and they can get it within our SU.
That's great. That's good, yeah.
Okay. Next slide.
Yes, please. MTSS, we didn't change a ton this year. However, we did get a lot of feedback from staff that they needed a little bit of extra support. So we added in our team leaders this year. I listed their names. I know it's probably fairly small, but so every school, every pod or team, let's say it's K2 or 3-5, has their own team leader who kind of manages that system. They'll make sure that teachers know what to prepare when they come into a meeting, make sure that the data is all collected, make sure that the paperwork's completed the way it should be, and then we'll facilitate the meeting. This will help with consistency, predictability, and also make sure that we're providing the best we possibly can, and that it's sustainable over time, that we're able to continue to move this forward. I also outlined just what our meeting structure is. We have our SU meetings where we're talking about SU data, and we're making sure that the system as a whole is working really well. Our school coordinators are then meeting at our buildings to talk about how things are working within their building, and then we have our team leader structure. So far it's going well. It's the first month, so we're just kind of getting into some of those meetings now, but it seems to be going well. Next slide. Yeah, data use. So the only last thing I wanted to share is just we're really working on providing some additional supports for data use within our schools. We're going to continue to do our data dives and set goals using the data that we have coming in all the time, whether that be academic or behavior. We have data practices meetings once a month now at every team, where they're just bringing in data to look at classroom, their own classroom instruction. So they might bring writing samples, or they might bring track my progress data or math data, and then they're looking at that and saying, okay, what could I be doing differently within my classroom, or what's really going well that I want to share with others. We're going to continue to review our assessment tools, very similar to what we're doing with curriculum, to make sure that our assessment tools are reporting out on what we want them to report out on, and that they are based on the most current science of learning. And then we're going to continue looking at better ways to collect data and report on that data. Right now, I kind of manage all of those systems using a fancy Google Forms and shared drives, and it's working. It's going well. People are getting the information they need, but of course, we want to continue to make sure that we're moving forward with that and getting better, and then providing training for our staff. So I think that's all I had, unless there are any questions.
Any questions? Thank you, Brittany.
You're welcome.
Next up is Patty Gray, our instructional coach for literacy and math. So Patty, if you want to unmute.
Yeah. Good evening. If I cut out, I will apologize now. My connection's a little glitchy, as is my throat. But I, first of all, wanted to give a shout out to Anna Brooks, because that was a really well-spoken, eloquent sentiment about the value of Leader in Me. And I remember touring the school with her and a team from Heartland when we looked at the school in Manchester, and just being amazed at what they're doing down there, and to see it in our SU now is amazing. And it's because of teachers like Anna and many others that are just bringing it to fruition. So very proud to be a part of that and to see that happening. And then I'm not sure if he's still on, but I did want to say welcome to Ethan Lawrence. Really looking forward to working with you. And it's always nice to meet a fellow Hartford grad. So that's nice too. I am the instructional coach for the SU. In case you don't know me, I work with teachers and administrators, and we look at instruction, we look at problems of practice, we look at data, all kinds of things. I work with teams and individuals, kind of a jack of all trades, if you will. One of the major things we're doing this year is looking at our math curriculum. We had a lot of teachers asking last year about Eureka Math, which we have been using for, and Angie helped me out, I think since 2015. And while it's a really rich, fabulous program, it has some drawbacks to it. And thankfully, the creators of Eureka Math, which is called Great Minds listened to the feedback of thousands and thousands of teachers nationwide who said, listen, it's too, the verbiage is too much for young children. The language is not appropriate. It's overwhelming visually. It's too dense. And they really worked to revise it. And what they ended up with was Eureka Math 2, or actually they call it Eureka Math Squared, sorry. And so we had a lot of teachers asking last year, can we please look at it? Can we just give it a try? And after a lot of consideration and looking at research-based best practices for teaching math and comparing the old Eureka with the new Eureka, we decided, it might be worth giving it a go. And so we have actually even more teachers than what Angie had on her list, because I think that might have been just one list. But we actually have 18 teachers, K-8, who are from three of the schools who are piloting. We did have a bit of a glitch getting started in that a major component of Eureka Math Squared is the digital component. And that is because it's very much meant to be interactive visually so that teachers can use their smart boards and display the information in the slides and work with that and have practical models for students and worked models for students. And we couldn't get into the system. And it was because our Clever had some glitches, and I'm still getting texts currently from teachers. You can hear my phone dinging probably, they're dinging me saying, I can't get in today. And it's because Clever's broken today, is what I was told. But at any rate, we're able to get into the digital component now, and we're really starting to look at how rich it is and how much more appropriate it is. And so the hope is to look at it this year. We did all that comparison last year. And so for fiscal year 23, the 18 teachers who are working in the pilot, we're going to be meeting monthly. They'll meet with me, and we'll look at professional learning around the program, around best practices for math instruction. And I'll also be meeting with grade level or pod level teams once a month to really look at what are the problems with the program, how can we tweak it. If we do end up with full implementation in fiscal year 24, what do we need to do to make that really effective and less stressful than we've seen other programs in the past? Because we know when we adopt a program, there's always tweaks you have to make. And then toward the end of the year, the hope is that this team of pilot teachers will have had enough time with the program and we'll have enough data to really look at that and the scope and sequence and look at the pacing and does it meet our needs of a math program, and give that recommendation to the ad team for next steps. Do we adopt it next year, or is it just not the right thing? And so that remains to be seen, but I'm very excited that so many people were very optimistic and enthusiastic about piloting it. So that's a big part of my year this year. Angie, you can go ahead if you don't mind. And then going back to what Brittany was talking about, I'm involved in some of those essential trainings this year, foundations. Some of you may know is our K-3 foundational reading skills program, trauma-informed practices, and other things. Professional learning, that some of the things I provided last year around specific instructional practices, student engagement, things like that. This summer and last year, I worked a lot with the team, with Angie and Brittany, around the New Teacher Academy and how to make that more supportive so that the induction practices we have for new teachers, both brand new to the profession and to the SU, is more supportive so that we can retain teachers, because we know teachers we're losing them at a pretty rapid pace, and we want to retain the teachers we have. And then the mentor program Angie mentioned, there's been some tweaks to that, and then how I, as an instructional coach, can support those new teachers. I'm going to be meeting with them throughout the year. And then my usual one-on-one coaching with teachers, which includes planning lessons, curriculum support, and so on. And then working with teams, working with principals, and then the curriculum work either through a writing pilot. We had a writing pilot last year that the recommendation from the pilot team was, no, this is not the best program for us. And so we're kind of back to square 1.B, if you will, in that we have to look at that again, which is perfectly fine. I'd rather that than not make the best choice as a team for our SU. And looking at our assessments in reading and other areas, and the math pilot and foundation support. So I guess you could say I've got my fingers in a lot of pies, and I kind of like that. I thrive on that. Angie, next, please.
That's it.
Oh, that was it.
So yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot. So thank you, Patty. Thank you,
Yeah.
Brittany. And thank you, everyone, for letting us share. And we look forward to reporting out at the end of the year how we made all that happen.
Great. Thank you for sharing all of that information.
Is it possible, I mean, because it's just great information, but to get some of that information maybe in half of the year before, as opposed to getting it all at the end of the year?
Well, we have our schedule of when we're going to be, which department is sharing out. So I'm not sure when my next share out is, and I can check that. It might be more grants related though, at that time.
There's just such great stuff going on.
And I will.
You don't want to wait till June.
Yeah, I will send the PDF of the slideshow to Lori to post with the notes and the video of this meeting so everybody can read it if they want to.
Yeah. Can I ask Patty a quick question?
Patty?
Yes, of course.
Sure. And you may not know the answer now, but at some point, I'm wondering if, while the teachers begin to study it, whether or not Eureka 2 has, not necessarily online, but digital assessments embedded in their curriculum, because you did mention there is a digital portion of it.
Yeah, great question. In part of that, it's a two-part answer. So it depends on the grade level. In the upper grades currently, and I think it's 6 through 8, I might be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure it's 6 through 8. Students can take the assessments online, and the teachers can see the data that is created from those assessments, which does inform their instruction. There is another component to Eureka Math Squared, and it's called Equip. And that would allow, it's an additional purchase, which is $12 per student. And that would allow students to do more interactive things online with the math. Currently, we have math workbooks for all students K through 8 who are participating in the pilot. But again, those 6th through 8th grade students have that one piece that allows them to do the assessments online, which gives the teachers a little bit of instant feedback and can help them tailor their groups and their instruction skill-wise. So to answer your question, yes, there is a little bit more to it. And I know that the parent company, Great Minds, is working to make more of it online. The original Eureka, I don't know if they actually worked with Zern or if Zern took I don't know how it came about, but they had their information and their lessons on a site called Zern, and students could get on and interact with that, which was really great. But at the K3 levels, I thought it wasn't quite as student friendly. But I do know that Great Minds is working on collaboration with Zern and probably another platform or two to make that possible. The Eureka Math Squared is really new within the last year or so. So I know that they are still in a lot of the beta process, if you will.
Yeah, that would be good to know, because I know how much work it is for an instructor to incorporate it into a learning system such as Canvas. And so if they do that already, it's sort of it's a big jump.
Yeah, exactly. If you're ever curious, I'm happy to give a demonstration of what is online for teachers currently. So all the lesson slides are online, and there are some videos that demonstrate some of the concepts. And they don't have one for every single lesson, but there are some of those within the program that teachers can show. And so, and there's also, I'm forgetting the site right now, but there are interactive digital manipulatives. Oh, I wish I could remember the site, but teachers can access those as well to use with the lessons. So if you're ever curious, I'm happy to show you those.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on is correspondence. And we had spoke at length at our last meeting about how we were going to treat correspondence. And in the case where a person, someone from our public, a parent, a student, a community member, sends an email to the full board, then that will be treated as part of the meeting. That will go into the minutes of the meeting. And as such, anyone who is looking at the packet for tonight's meeting, there is an email that we received from Mr. Daniel Bortz, which will become part of the minutes to this meeting. So again, it's when we receive an email that is addressed to the full board. And Davis, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. I don't want to get too semantic here, but does it become part of the minutes or part of the meeting packet?
Well, it becomes part of the record of the meeting.
Okay.
So when a person goes to look at the minutes, they would have the minutes, they would have all of the background material just as we do. It's in the, on the SU board page for meetings.
Okay, that answers my question. Thanks.
Welcome.
Amy, Bill has a question.
Oh,
I can't see his
Bill.
hand.
I'm just being able to,
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
not logged in. So I think I emailed this to you, but not to the whole board, but I think it's really important for the public to understand that these correspondence, at least from my perspective, these correspondence do not automatically mean that it becomes part of the physical meeting, that it's not necessarily going to be discussed.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just, it will be part, anyone who wants to see the correspondence that the board has received will be able to find that.
And you've said this a few times during meetings, and I think you put it very well. And I think occasionally it'd be a good idea to bring it up again, the fact that these are not public meetings.
These are meetings being held in the public.
Yeah.
And on on all of our agendas, we have a statement that says the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union is interested in hearing from the community. Comments or questions for the board can be shared during public participation at a board meeting or sent in a letter to board members. Letters sent to board members that pertain to school board matters may become part of the public record, placed on the WSESU website in the board packet for the month, and may be addressed by the board in subsequent meetings. Just to let our community know how we are treating correspondence that is sent to us. So thank you.
So is this procedure, or is this part of a policy right now, or is it part of a procedure?
It is a procedure.
Okay, have we voted on it?
We discussed it at length
Yes.
at our last meeting.
Okay. And I know this was kind of where we were leaning at, but my question is, it's something that we want to, not now, at some point, more to solidify.
Well, given the fact that we have our statement on our agenda, it is solidified.
Okay.
Beth,
I just want a little clarification around, so if there's correspondence to the board and there's specific questions that people ask within that correspondence, when are those questions answered?
Nikki.
So I think the board directs the discussion in the meeting. And so I think if board members feel that it's important that they bring those discussions into a public light, then they should discuss that with the chair and have it put on a meeting agenda or bring it up at a meeting to have further discussion on those points. But I think that if the majority of the board feels that those have already been discussed or feels that the comments are not appropriate for a board meeting, then I think the board can just choose to not address those comments.
Okay, so my understanding, so then is like if somebody sends in a letter, an email during public comment and has a specific question, the board, is not obligated to, address those questions at that time, right?
Correct.
Okay, so I think that's something that needs to be really clear in public to the public, because that's not usually how normal conversations happen. If you have a question, it gets answered, it's just, and so it feels a little odd in the structure of Robert's rules and stuff. So if there's a way we can try to convey that to the public a little more clearly, I think that might also be helpful.
It is also when we have public participation at the beginning of a meeting. It is a person who is providing information to us. It is not a moment of interaction. We thank the public for bringing that information to our attention, and then it may or may not become part of a future agenda.
Yes, that's really clear to me, but I can see how it may not be. This is my like 6th year doing this, and it's just finally like made it clear to me. So I think it's it's not always that clear to the public at times. That's all. So I don't know what we can do to help with it.
We can add that to the statement.
I know, and they do that in Hartford, I believe. So we
Well,
can
the
also
other thing that is quite common for board chairs is to refer the question, because many questions aren't school board related, they're administration related, to refer that question to the appropriate administrator.
Correct. Are there any other questions or comments on?
Thanks, Amy.
Yeah, you're welcome. We move on to items for discussion, and top of the list is the hiring and employment policy. And Elizabeth is not here this evening, and unfortunately, she's not here. She wanted to be and had all intent to be here. And part of an email that she sent to me was that she and Beth Roy did not have an opportunity to meet regarding the hiring and employment policies, but she would have a draft to share. I have not seen that draft. Beth, are you aware of?
I haven't seen a draft either. So yeah, Elizabeth and I have been like two ships crossing, and have not actually bumped into each other. And I don't know too, with the new equity coordinator, I don't know the timing of Ethan coming on, if that's something also to have him be part of that discussion, it seems. Well, I'm
Okay,
not
yeah.
shirking my responsibility. I'm saying join him with us.
I'll just add it to the next
Okay,
agenda.
yeah, so this will be on our next agenda.
Yes, one of these days.
Agenda for our
we will.
next meeting.
Thank you.
I don't remember, was there a Vismet, what do they call them? Suggested policies?
Model policy?
Model policy.
I don't
Okay.
know.
I didn't remember, but not unusual for me not to remember.
As I scramble looking on the VSBA website. Okay, so moving on. Thank you, Beth. Student.
Thank you for not doing what I said I was going to do.
Well, no, for giving an
Sorry.
update. No, I completely understand. It's busy times. You have your classes as well, and exciting times. Okay, student breakfast times.
Yeah, there was a question, I think, from Bill last time. And I did a little bit of research and chatted with Nikki a little bit because we implemented breakfast after the bell at Heartland when I first, actually prior to my taking the position in Heartland. And what the research says is that, and there's been extensive research on breakfast after the bell, basically says that the single most effective intervention the school can make to increase breakfast participation is to move it after the bell. And that really impacts kids that don't get breakfast at home, free and reduced students. So that's the rationale for doing it after the bell. It really is an equity, could be a potential equity issue if you're offering it before school and kids can't get to school to eat the breakfast if it's served before the start of the school day. So we've effectively, I think, been doing it in all our schools since I've been here. I would recommend that it stays after the bell. I mean, it ensures that all kids are getting breakfast. But certainly we can talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah, my point wasn't so much to remove breakfast after the bell, but to allow students opportunity to eat before the bell, if that was a
Gotcha.
better fit for their needs.
Bill, they do.
Okay.
So if you come into, like, I know for Heartland, if they come in early, there's breakfast there. And sometimes it's more like you actually can have like a hot option or something like that before the bell. So maybe you have an egg sandwich available, whereas your breakfast in the classroom, maybe cereal and milk or something, which is, maybe easier to transport, something like that. So generally it's basically just offering food for a longer period of time to get as many kids to eat. And then it's also, those kids that are constantly, like the families that are just 10 minutes late for school every day, they still get their kids to eat. And also in Vermont, that time that kids are eating is considered instructional time. So it's not like you have to add 15 minutes to your school day because they're doing breakfast after the bell. It's considered instructional, so you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, part of my concern was drop off at the schools when it started the year was still at that 10 minutes before the bell. And so that transition made it really tight for any sort of eating option before the bell. So
yeah, lots of times it's also just like a grab and go situation. So maybe the kids can head to their classroom before, that time and can have their bag and head to the classroom.
I just want as many options to have a very large period of time for them to be able to eat.
Yeah, it also has to depend on just like what supervision is like before school. If you have 20 minutes before school with supervision, great. They can, you can get more kids there early and eat. But if literally
that's what happened at Alfred Bridge.
Yeah, if you don't have
they were able to extend it by 10 minutes, and so.
Yeah, then you have a little more time, but it comes down to staffing lots of times too, unfortunately.
So that's working better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. Superintendent search. At our last meeting, there was considerable discussion on whether or not we wanted to look beyond Vermont School Board Association to assist with to facilitate our superintendent search. And Larry assisted with a little bit of information. He spoke with his counterpart at Windsor Central, which is Woodstock, about how they conducted their superintendent search. And the response from Woodstock was, we used Jacobson and McPherson for their last search. Our central office staff wasn't happy with them. They felt like Jacobson and McPherson required the central office to do most of the work, and they paid approximately $10,000 for that. I also received more information from Vermont School Board Association in terms of timeline template and the screening committee charge document from the person who would most likely be assigned our superintendent search, and a timeline. The consultant provides templates for job description, committee charge, and job posting, and they post it on School Spring, facilitate screening committee meetings, and notify partners of postings. And they, and then the board that contracts with VSBA, they finalize the job description, they create and adopt the screening committee charge, and establish the date for finalist interviews. And then the screening committee elects a chair and a clerk, reviews the committee charge. And this is all under the facilitation of the consultant from Vermont School Board Association. And week 5, so they consider this how many weeks here? A 9-week process that they would be at our side. So week 5 is facilitate screening committee meetings and communicate with all applicants. And the screening committee would then evaluate candidates individually. The consultant on week 6 invites semifinalists for interviews and assist the screening committee in determining questions for those interviews. And the consultant in week 7 performs reference checks on proposed finalists, informs candidates' status, and notifies the Agency of Education. And week 8 recommends interview process to the board to finalize the interview process and assists with determining the final interview questions. And then week 9, the consultant oversees the site visits, arranges faculty and staff and public forums, collects stakeholder input, and also facilitates the creation of what we want from our stakeholders, and facilitates board interviews and notifies unsuccessful candidates. And that is what the Vermont School Board Association does to assist in a superintendent search. And the Vermont School Board Association charges $8,500.
Well, I appreciate the extra effort going into it. I personally have never been particularly impressed with the Vermont School Board Association, but this may be an opportunity for them to wow me.
So were you not involved in any of the other superintendent searches?
I have never been.
Conducted? Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay, so,
my hesitation, to put it very mildly, is based on a general annoyance and not being very impressed with what I've seen from the Vermont School Board Association in general. But
I'm sorry to hear that,
I know.
but we are all entitled to our
Yes, we are.
opinions.
But that should not stop us from allowing them to shine.
And I know that Beth had questions on what Vermont School Board Association was doing in terms of equity and how they their own hiring practices and how they assisted schools. And the Vermont School Board Association, in conjunction with the Vermont Superintendent Association and Principals Association, I think it was 4 years ago. It seems a while ago. It might be 5. Yeah, it's got to be at least 4 years. Had a series of workshops with the Vermont School Board Association Board and again, Vermont superintendents and principals. And we worked extensively on creating an equity definition. And I can read that to you. The equity definition that is used by Vermont School Board Association and superintendents and principals, and has also been approved by employees of the Agency of Education, is each student receives the resources and educational opportunities they need to learn and thrive. Excuse me. Equity means that a student's success is not predicted or predetermined by characteristics such as race, ethnicity, religion, family economics, class, geography, ability, language, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, or initial proficiencies. Equity means that every school provides and every student has access to high-quality, culturally responsive curriculum, programs, teachers and administrators, extracurricular activities, and support services to meet the needs of each and every student. Equity goes beyond formal equality where all students are treated the same. Achieving equity may require an unequal distribution of resources and services. Equity involves acknowledging and disrupting inequitable practices, acknowledging biases, employing practices that reflect the reality that all students will learn, and creating inclusive, multicultural school environments for adults and children. And they also had a hand in assisting the Vermont Agency in developing the Equity Lens tool. And you can find the Equity Lens tool. It's part of, there's a link to it on the Vermont School Board Association website and the resources. And let me see, there's more. There's more. No, the more will come later in our discussion. So for items for action, because we need to take a proactive step in initiating our superintendent search, I will be asking for a vote to approve engaging Vermont School Board Association to facilitate our search, but that will be an item for action. Does anyone have any questions on the superintendent search? Thank you. Next up is no small matter, and that was the screening of the early education and when that was going to happen and how that was going to be paid for. Part of this also connects to part of the correspondence that we received. There was a question on whether or not we should be showing this because it was felt that Elizabeth was asking a friend to present it and that that was a conflict of interest, which we have already had that conversation on whether or not there was a conflict of interest with Elizabeth. So in that correspondence, there was a question, let's see. So the question was if there was no financial exchange or benefit. And there is no financial exchange, if I understand the question. And Elizabeth is, let's see, so Elizabeth's response to that question was the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union was not awarded a grant from the Vermont Community Foundation because the film has been shown around the state so many times thanks to funding from both Vermont Community Foundation and Let's Grow Kids. It is a seminal film on early childhood And the only benefit that we will receive from Elizabeth being acquainted with the person who created would be a better speaker lineup and nothing more. The price would be the same for everyone else. And she has applied for grants from both Mascoma and Dorothy Byrne Foundation, and she's waiting to hear back. So that is where that, no small matter.
I just bought the DVD, so I'm moving on with my life. I'm sorry to say, I just got the last used one on Amazon, so.
Oh my gosh.
I think you
Maybe-
can download it too. I
You can download it, but,
Mhm.
did the same.
yeah,
You like
but-
DVDs?
I've used it for
well,
class.
then, I come from an extended teacher family,
Yes.
so it wouldn't allow me to share it with others.
And equity declaration for the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union.
I think the Mount Scottney School Board adopted an equity declaration, and I believe the question was, does the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union Board feel compelled to adopt that equity declaration or a similar one?
Has the other school districts had a chance to read what we adopted?
Heartland has.
Heartland
I mean,
has.
Heartland read what you adopted. We had our own discussions at the Heartland board and decided that it was better if our community adopted it because then it would cover the school as well. Then it's the whole community.
Yeah, a community flavor to it, I can totally respect that.
Yeah, and
I believe they did, right? Heartland School
yeah,
Board did. Select
the
Board.
select board adopted it on last Monday.
Yeah.
It's
It's
yeah,
great.
yeah, it's really good.
Congratulations.
Yeah. I guess I feel like that's I don't want to say it's a backward step because it's not a backward step, but it's also not really a forward step either. Like we're doing so much and we have our policy on equity and we're pushing forward on equity so much. I feel like the declaration is just like a checkbox and not actually,
Yeah.
I don't know, we're already doing it.
Yeah, we're doing it.
Doing it,
Doing
so.
it, yes.
I think it's so much, I think it's more meaningful to be in line with the select board in the community than within the SU.
Right. Which the Mount Scottney School District, that was what we adopted, was what the select board
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
Okay.
And I also
Took
like,
that one extra step.
to clarify my statement, like 4 years ago, yes, I think we should have adopted it. Because we weren't where we are now.
Right,
So-
exactly.
I will say, it wasn't a negative comment. It's just-
And just for, if people have a question, here it is. So many pieces of white paper. So if people in our community as well as school board members are not acquainted, there was it was Act 1 that was passed by our legislature in 2019, I believe. And one of the items that is charged to schools is to report, and I'm going to read this from this is from the act, just so in case there are some in the community who believe that we as a school district have decided that this is what we're going to do. Yes, we have decided this is what we're going to do, but we are not the only school district in the state. In fact, it is due to Act 1 that was adopted in 2019 by our state legislature and signed by our governor. And we are charged to report annually on the condition of education statewide and on school-by-school supervisory union and school district basis. The report shall include information on attainment of standards for student performance adopted under subdivision 9 of this section, number and types of complaints of hazing, harassment, and bullying made pursuant to Chapter 9, Subchapter 5 of this title, and responses to complaints, financial resources, expenditures, and community social indicators. The report shall be organized and presented in a way that is easily understandable by the general public and that enables each school, school district, and supervisory union to determine its strengths and weaknesses. To the extent consistent with state and federal privacy laws and regulations, data on hazing, harassment, or bullying incidents shall be disaggregated by incident type, including disaggregation by ethnic groups, racial groups, religious groups, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, disability status, English language learner status. So this is information that we are gathering under Act 1. This is why we are doing an equity audit to ensure that the policies and our practices and our curriculum and our day-to-day activities align with equity. And this is also why we are about to, under items for action, approve the appointment of our diversity, equity, and inclusion coordinator. That is just in case anyone was wondering why it is, besides doing the right thing, that we are doing all of our equity work. Are there any questions, Bill?
Well, it's also much more extensive than that. It's
Oh, yes,
actually- yeah,
it's significantly.
it is a
I
huge piece.
recommend, yes, because Act 1 is not only asking schools or charging schools to report on all of the activities, incidents, et cetera, but there's also the Agency of Education is updating all of the educational quality standards to for an equity lens, which is why I also brought to the attention of everyone. If you go on the Vermont School Board Association, go to resources on equity, you can spend at least an hour if you want to look at all of the links that they have provided, not only what's happening in the state of Vermont, what the Agency of Education is doing, but also what is happening in other states in New England, as well as across the United States.
Yeah.
And how we can, there's professional development opportunities, there's so much you can just get lost in all of the information provided.
We also are providing grants.
Oh, yes, there is a mini grant that's being, school boards, supervisory unions will have an opportunity to apply for mini grants for equity work.
It's a 12-page bill.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yes.
it's pretty
And
in-depth.
it affects all levels of education, including board work.
Yeah. And workplace. And,
Yes,
but, it's huge.
it is. And Davis.
Yeah, I appreciate the outlining of the complexity of Act 1 and how much it touches. And, I think Bill sort of underscored that it's, it's long, it's complicated. It actually goes a lot deeper than just that top level, right? Like it would be a long conversation to really go through all 12 pages of this bill and point out all of the different things that it affects. I think one of the benefits of having something like an equity declaration, and this is part of why I supported it on the Mount Ascutney board level, is that it does reflect work that we're already doing right now, and it does tie into these initiatives that are mandates on a state level. But I think that if we had that as a gateway into those resources that we could post somewhere like on our SU page and say, this is a voluntary statement that the board has decided to sign on to, and put it up here, and then connect it to all of those different things. I think that sometimes when there's that much content and that many resources tied to something, having some sort of primer to draw folks in and say, like, this is an encapsulation of all of these things that we're doing. Here's more information. Here's the depth of information. Here's what the state mandate is. Here's what all these different resources are. So I think there is some value to, there would be some value to adopting it at an SU board level. And I think it's actually all the more powerful, just to push back slightly on what Nikki said, is because we're already doing this, I think that actually, we're kind of walking the walk before we're talking the talk. I think it actually might have, in a way, had we done it the other way, it would have been like, okay, well, you're saying all this, but what are you doing? And at this point, we're working all of these things, and it's like, and this sort of summarizes and encapsulates all those things. So that would be my, my perspective on why it might make sense to adopt it on this level.
Thank you, Davis. You make a good point. Would you be interested in working with anyone else who is interested in looking at the Mount Ascutney School District, what was adopted by the Mount Ascutney School District and what's been adopted by the Select Board of Heartland, and see what is happening in Wethersfield, and create something that you can bring back to our meeting next month that perhaps we could vote on?
Sure.
That's a lawful one. Yeah, that's. May I put in a caveat there? It might be nice to have a report from Wethersfield to see where they're at. And to really respect the fact that they have their own process to go through. And quite possibly when all communities all three communities have passed something, then that might be the appropriate time to then look at what all three have done.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Bill in this. I think that it would be good process to let each community sort of have this conversation in their space before bringing it here. And I think that this is one of those things that it's an important conversation. I think we should keep having it, but I don't see a reason to rush it through at this meeting or next meeting. I want to make sure that, communities have the time to discuss these matters. So, yeah, maybe jump the gun on saying sure there, but once we get there, I'd be happy to sit down with some folks and look at everything and maybe, put something forward at that time.
Again, I apologize for having the assumption that all of our towns have had that conversation. And you're both correct that we have not heard from Wethersfield as to what is happening in terms of equity statements by either their school board or select board. Anne Marie, I see that you are here. Do you have...
Yeah. I don't know what's happening at the select board. I would only assume that it has not been discussed there, but I really haven't had a chance to attend a meeting since the summer. So virtually attend a meeting since the summer. So I don't know, but I have never heard them discuss it. I could look at some of their agendas, but I don't think it's something that's even on their radar, to tell you the truth.
Okay. Thank you.
I just want to share with Anne Marie that there is a particular person through the Equity Caucus Committee, Al, I'm not sure what his last name is, but he has approached most of the town select boards and has had a discussion with them, and maybe it would be a good idea for you to maybe be connected with Al to have that conversation. Al and two other individuals have gone throughout the state of Vermont and have met with the select board, and I think at this point, it may be like half of the towns in Vermont have adopted the policy, the statement. It may be a good idea for her to have a conversation with Al, and I can get that information to you, maybe, and you can, as opposed to just going at this alone.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and he's done it. He's been through, I don't know how many towns in Vermont, but he's already had something like half of the towns in Vermont adopt the policy. So he's been to Windsor, he's been to West Windsor, he's been to Heartland, and many others, to Hartford. So he would be a really good person to do this with.
That'd be great. Thank you, Rebecca.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add, and forgive me if you said this and I didn't hear you, Rebecca, but it's worth pointing out too that the Windsor Equity Declaration is adapted from that state level equity declaration. Some towns have adapted it the way that Windsor did. Other towns have adopted the direct language from that statewide initiative. But that's another connection that this does have to a larger Vermont initiative. So just to underscore again that this is not necessarily something that we've spun up on our own in this community or space. This does connect us to a larger Vermont community and communities around the country.
Great, thank you, Davis, and thank you, Rebecca. And we will move on. So this will continue to be a conversation for our board. Next on our agenda is social media, and I believe Christine.
Sure. I recently had a conversation with some local parents about our open network. I guess that's the right term, looking at Larry. And they had concerns about the network being open to all students, which allows them access to social media sites. I don't think we've been, in my experience, great about communicating that to parents, that it is an open network. I think we probably did it one time, but it's not something that we revisit often. And so they wanted to have it put on the agenda for discussion tonight at the board meeting, and I think a couple of them are here and they want to speak about it.
And Tara Howard, your hand is raised.
Hi, I'm Tara Howard, and I'm here tonight to ask for social media sites to be blocked on school Chromebooks that are issued to our children. My husband and I were shocked when we found out that the Chromebooks had all of this access. We, along with most parents, assumed that school-issued devices would be protected and safe, considering they're given to children. Parents don't even know that our kids have this access. The main issue here is how dangerous social media is. Most of these kids that have this access are not old enough or mature enough to be on these sites. It opens up chat rooms where children can end up kidnapped, raped, or even worse. We already have had several students in our school end up in the hospital for harming themselves and having suicidal thoughts and tendencies. I personally know a few of them, and it all stemmed from social media. There are groups on social media platforms that cut themselves, and they encourage other people to cut themselves. And there are groups that even encourage people to kill themselves. This is very real, and it's already happening in our school. I spoke with a mom who pulled her kids out of Windsor School due to these unsafe Chromebooks that are issued. Her child created a Facebook account on her Chromebook, and her parents had no idea. The Chromebook was issued by Windsor School, and this child was actually lured out of her house at 1:30 in the morning by someone online. This mom came to the Windsor School and spoke to the principal with her concerns, and she was shut down, just like so many of us parents have been. She ended up pulling all of her children out of Windsor School because of the unsafe Chromebooks that you require them to have. It seems that quite a few sets of parents have come to the school with these same concerns, and every time it just gets shut down. It's not going to get shut down this time because we're not stopping now until something is done about this. Social media is a distraction for students to do their schoolwork. This also violates a lot of parents' rules in their households regarding social media. I've spoken to so many parents, and not one of them knew that our kids have this access. Raising kids and keeping them safe is hard enough without our school giving our kids dangerous, unsafe electronic devices. To force kids to do their work on the Chromebook is bad enough, but to give them an unsafe device that they also bring into their home is just unacceptable. I'm very happy with your new cell phone policy that you have in school this year, because last year I heard from several students that kids were bullying each other on social media during school hours. My husband and I attended a play last year at the school, and we personally witnessed a group of boys sitting behind us literally bullying another student while the play was going on. We heard their whole conversation. We were honestly disgusted when we left the school that this was allowed, and we wondered how safe our children really are in your school. There's one small step that our school could take to keep our kids safe, and that is blocking Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, Twitter, and Messenger. For clarification purposes, Facebook and Messenger are two different sites. Other local schools already have these sites blocked on their school-issued Chromebooks. When you're an adult and you have a job, these social media sites are blocked on most work computers. I always hear you guys say how you care about the kids and you care about their safety. At the beginning of this meeting, Christine talked about how school safety is the utmost importance. If you really care about our students' safety, then show us by taking the simple step to block all social media sites, making the Chromebook safe for all children. Social media for children should be up to parents. It doesn't even belong in school. And if you guys don't want to keep the Chromebook safe for our kids, then it's time to talk about other ways for them to get their work done that don't include the Chromebooks. There are a lot of us really hoping that you will take the appropriate step and do the right thing by blocking social media on the school-issued Chromebooks. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. And
Bill has a question.
Bill.
So, and Larry can correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding of blocking certain sites is that a network has the capacity to block a site.
Yeah.
Which means that at school, if a student logs into our network, then the school has that capacity to have filters.
Yeah.
And if the Chromebook is taken outside of the school, then
We can do it both ways.
okay.
So the history is, we've always been this open. Going back previous administrations, previous superintendents for many years. This was brought to our attention last year, and this year we have a better filtering system where this year we created an opt-out for parents who want to block social media, either on the Chromebook, at home. It doesn't matter whether they're home or at school.
Okay.
I think what these parents are asking for is the ability to block it completely for everybody. I think that's up to the administration. And if, from an IT perspective, if that's what the administration decides to do, we can do that. And it would be blocked at home and on school grounds for student Chromebooks. Question?
Yeah, I have a question, and this is just from my experience as a parent. So this is going back quite a few years because my kids are older. But when they were in elementary school and they had their Chromebook, they could not receive an email from someone that wasn't part of the school. So if I used my personal email to send my daughter an email when she had her school Chromebook, it would get sent back to me saying, if could not be sent, could not be received.
So that was the case K-8 for many years,
Uh-huh.
and the
Yes.
administration changed it to K-6, I believe, during COVID. So
Okay,
K-6 cannot receive outside emails from outside the SU, but 7 through 12 can.
okay. Yeah, because suddenly then.
When they
And
became
I,
high
and I
schoolers.
also, right, when I was working at the Heartland Library and trying to communicate with some of the students who wanted to do coding, I couldn't
Yeah.
because my library email would not be received by, okay. So
And
I
then
just
also
wondered
was-
if that was the
And we
case.
had kids who are high schoolers taking Dartmouth classes who need access,
Yes,
need to receive those
exactly,
emails
yeah.
in college. So that's separate than social media, but we've been doing that for years.
Okay.
Outside, yeah.
I also understood that you guys were watching what sites kids were on.
We're not watching, we can go back and see.
Okay.
So anytime it's an administrator brings it to IT and says, we want to see for these 2 weeks what this child was doing, we always export that and send it off to the administrator. IT does not get involved in disciplinary, but we're like, we can go back in time and see what they were looking at and then let the principal handle it from there.
They do have access to Lightspeed, the teachers.
The teachers also have access to Lightspeed. So theoretically, if a teacher wanted to, they could make it so that they're locking so if I was in a classroom and I was teaching high school English and I wanted to work on a Google Doc that only they could work on, I could block them from using any other sites while they're in that classroom. A lot of our teachers like it. They can also see what their tabs the students have open. They can close tabs on the students.
Right, oh, I remember that
yes.
too,
We did a
yeah.
demo of
Yeah,
that
or
a few years ago.
hearing of that happening, yes.
So my question is if you could block certain sites, because you have students who are doing research work.
Yeah.
And they may need access to certain sites, but is it possible to block certain sites like Facebook?
Yeah.
TikTok?
So if the administration decided to block social media, it would be the category social media. IT doesn't really want to get involved in whack-a-mole and deciding that TikTok's okay, but Facebook's not, Twitter's not. I would rather, if we're going to do it or not do it, and then whatever it is the way it is. We don't want to decide that this social media site is okay, Instagram's okay, but Facebook's not. Because then that'll never end. Because there'll be another Instagram in 2024 that we're not even just thinking about. So if we're going to block it, we're going to block it or not.
Do we know?
As a category.
Yeah, I know, and I understand that, but do we know how others, what does other
Yeah.
schools do? I
Most
mean,
schools block social media, is from what we've found. And that was the case years ago when we never blocked it and made that decision. And most schools do block, so as Tara said, it's not uncommon, especially at the K-8 level, to block social media.
The other thing that Hartford does, and this is just with YouTube, is it only allows YouTube videos that have been approved by teachers.
Yeah.
And teachers can go in and it's just a simple button right there, approve this. Because there's a lot of YouTube content in which teachers use.
Right.
Yeah, and my understanding is that, and again, I don't want to speak for these parents, but my understanding is they're more concerned about social media and less concerned about YouTube. Although
Right.
we all agree that there is stuff on YouTube
Yeah.
that is not appropriate, but there's a lot that many teachers use for flipping the classroom, as they call it.
There is Misty Booten, your hand is raised.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me? I'm outside, so I want to make sure you can hear me.
And you're muted, Misty.
No, you can't hear me?
No, I can hear her, Misty.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. I think Tara really pointed on, can you hear me?
Cannot hear you.
How come some of you,
Now we
some
can.
of you can,
All the remote people can hear you, Misty. Can the people in the actual office hear you?
No.
Okay, they can. Go for it.
okay.
That was the
Bizarre.
talking.
No,
Okay.
No, nobody can hear.
The
That's
people
weird.
that are virtual can hear me.
Weird. Log in again.
Yeah, we can hear Misty. Those of us who are here remotely can hear Misty just fine.
Yeah, I can't hear.
No.
Never seen that.
Bizarre.
That's very strange.
Yeah.
Um,
Try unmuting and muting.
did that
Try
help
muting and then
anything?
unmuting, Misty. I don't know. It's just a guess.
Or logging out, logging back in?
Yeah, I would leave the meeting and come back.
Okay, I'll leave and come back.
Looks like she's.
And Beth, you had your hand raised for a moment.
Yeah, I mean, I just would love to hear, I guess, from any of the educators, what's the educational advantage of allowing social media access at school? Because I'm unsure that there is any.
Is there anyone
Okay.
who?
Got her. Yeah, we
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry. Did I interrupt something? I don't know if it's still my turn. Okay. So Tara really pointed on most of the things that we were concerned about. We met with first we went with Kate Ryan, then we moved up to Christine, and then we decided that we needed to bring it to the board. Tara really hit most of my concerns on the head. As far as the school monitoring what's happening, that is not happening. And so, yes, if there's a concern about a particular student, they can go back and look, but they're not looking at, kids like my kid who does her homework, she plays sports, whatever. She's not allowed any social media at my house. She actually didn't have a cell phone for a year. We took it away from her. I don't want to go too much into her personal story in this public setting, but I can tell you that she did get into some trouble with social media about a year ago. And so we took her cell phone. She was not allowed anything. And I had no idea that social media was on her Chromebook until Tara brought it to me. And she said, do you know that they can get on social media on their school Chromebooks? And I said, there's no way. We came from Claremont a few years ago and everything's blocked there, everything. My son went to high school there. They could not access any social media. I don't even know if they do YouTube there. They may. So I pulled my daughter's Chromebook and I said, can you bring your Chromebook downstairs? I want to check it. So I could log on to my TikTok. I could log on to my Facebook. I was amazed. She was at the time 13. And I couldn't believe she had access to this. She's not allowed it in my home. She got into some trouble. Took us a while to get her out of it, honestly. So I think that the big concern for me, number one, parents don't know. There's a lot of parents that don't know. There's a lot of parents who monitor their kids' social media, their phones. They check their kids' text messages. They have their kids' text messages sent to their phones. They check their kids' social media. They check their kids' messages, emails, because parents are keeping their kids safe, right? We're making sure they're not talking to strangers. They're not going out meeting people they shouldn't be meeting. But now they have this extra little bit of access that parents don't even know that they should be checking, one. And two, a lot of parents just assume they can't access that. When I was in school, and I'm going to age myself here, like the Yahoo chat rooms were just becoming a big thing. And we could not access that in school. So, at home, you'd be like, your parents didn't know because we were smarter than them. So you go home, you're on the Yahoo chat, right? But my parents didn't know, and I didn't have any idea. And I need to know that my children's Chromebooks are a safe place for them. I need to know that when she's doing her schoolwork, she's doing her schoolwork. And Tara and I had our children blocked when we found out. So our children are no longer able to access social media on their Chromebooks. My biggest concern are for parents who don't know this is happening, don't know to check their children's Chromebooks. I would prefer that you just block it like the majority of the schools in our area. I've talked to Bellows Falls, Springfield, Claremont. I even reached out to some friends I have in South Carolina and even Hartford, Connecticut. None of them. Mascoma, no, there's none. I don't know. I haven't found any that actually allow it. So I would prefer that you take it away, but I'm begging you to at least have an opt-in form. If you feel that these kids have to have it, an opt-out form can be missed. An opt-in form isn't missed. So block it. If parents feel their kids need it, the school feels they need it, sign the form, send it in, your kid can have it. I don't feel kids should have it personally. But anyway, that's my tidbit. I appreciate you guys listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Misty.
Bill has his hand
Bill
raised.
had his hand up.
Bill?
So,
Davis.
and then we have a student social media policy already. I think to move forward responsibly, I'm wondering if the administration could throw out a survey to teachers to survey them if there is any particular social media that they use educationally, and or do they feel social media is educational beneficial. Okay, so we hear from the educators in the, and if the answer is no, I mean, I have no problem adding this particular piece to the social media policy regarding school devices. I think that would be sort of a mature path to take. And so that would relieve the responsibility on the administration to make that decision and then support whatever decision they make, because it would be part of a policy.
Tara, you had something more?
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to touch real quick because you guys were talking about how they monitor, everything that's going on with the Chromebooks. But when we met with Kate Ryan, she did tell us that she only goes on there if a problem arises. So she just kind of pointed out that no one's monitoring our children on their social media access, and it's just really scary at this point.
Thank you. Davis?
Yeah, I think Beth and Bill sort of both read my mind on what my initial question was, which was, is there any perceived educational benefit to having social media available? I think I agree that it would be good to at least touch base with teachers to see if there is some sort of use case for it being available. My default to it is that I have trouble thinking of one, and I would frankly be surprised if one did come up. But I think it's worth doing that little bit of due diligence. And I want to thank Tara and Misty. Thanks for bringing this to my attention, because I was not aware that that was an issue in this way. And I think Tara, you outlined some particularly extreme examples, but there are a lot of just subtler ways that social media can be really damaging during these developmental stages. And I think that having it widely available is, in my opinion, probably not the best idea. I particularly wanted to point out, Misty, I like your idea of having an opt-in form, because the only thing that came up in my mind is that, different people use communication tools differently, and different family cultures there's different family cultures where maybe the way that you text is through Messenger. I know I've run into that. I would not probably interact with anything that Meta does if it were not for that, and that there are some people who I have to communicate with, and that is the only way. That's, I think, the one caveat. And I think that I agree with Misty. I think it would make sense that if that is a real issue, like a safety issue within a family or a key communication issue, there should be a way to do it. But assuming there is nothing that comes out of the blue from our faculty that would justify having social media available, I have trouble thinking of any reason to keep it so.
Thank you, Davis. And Tara, I'm going to skip you for a moment and go to Beth.
Yes, thank you, Misty and Tara, for bringing this up. And I have to say, I didn't realize that was even an option. Like, so that was a little nerve-wracking for me. And I think in the meantime, I know policy review and policy changes can take months at a time. And so I think perhaps getting it, I don't know if the administration would feel comfortable, putting out an opt-out, notice, in the listserv or in newsletters or something. I just don't remember seeing it. I very well may have passed right before my eyes, and I just never saw it at the beginning of the year. And so I don't know if that's something we could do again as we're work on the redo of this policy, if that moves forward.
Thank you, Beth. And Kate Ryan.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I want to appreciate Tara and Misty and how easy they are to talk to. So they kind of made me start looking into this and have more conversations, because we kind of always defaulted to, well, we communicate a lot about our athletics through this. But in my job, I deal a lot with social media problems. They're always on the phone. They're never on the Chromebooks. But what I like is by blocking it, we're sending this message that this has no part in the school system right now, and we don't want to deal with it. I just think the message it sends to the kids would be nice, that we don't want this in the school. And like I said, all the times I'm dealing with social media, it's always on their phones. It's always outside of school hours or like on the bus or something like that. But I like the consistent message that it sends of we don't tolerate this in the school.
Nikki.
I want to follow on to what Kate said that I haven't really griped about before, but I don't use social media, and I'm always frustrated that I have to go to Facebook to figure out what I need to do at school. And I'm a board member and a parent. Like, I should be able to find that information some other way besides Facebook, and it drives me absolutely bonkers. So I think that that's just a wake up to us that maybe we need to provide other ways of, I always go to the website first, and then I go through all my emails, both on the board side and the personal side, and then I go to Facebook and have to find the information.
I would love for people who make those posts to Facebook and Twitter and Instagram to use the website more.
Yeah.
That we've created and built.
Yeah.
For the school.
And that's like, so me, when we talk about blocking social media, that's going to take away a lot of information
It would only
about our own schools.
No, that would
Only on
only
student
take away.
Chromebooks.
It would only, but it would take away the ability for students to
you're
learn
right.
about their own school.
Yes.
Right.
It would. They wouldn't be able to go there and see it.
Yeah.
They would have
And
to
that
go
would
to the
be really
website.
frustrating.
Or
use their phones.
Or
Or they would use their phone.
Which they will, yeah.
And I think,
pay attention in class.
I was gonna say, I think that
Oh my gosh.
if and when.
The teacher can show it.
Exactly, yeah, the teacher can say, okay, this is the policy, and now you need to understand that you're not going to be able to access information
Yeah.
this way anymore. I think it's a great lesson, and if all the teachers are doing this, then all the students are getting the same message. So I think that, it should just not be taken off and.
Well, besides the fact, Facebook's policy is
You're supposed to be 13. anyway.
you have to be 13.
Yeah.
So that takes away a huge portion. But I'd like to kind of look at a timeline here and hopefully that's possible to ask teachers, just because I agree with Davis. I don't really see any, I can't imagine any reason the teachers would disagree with this, but then again, I think due diligence, but I'd like to bring it up in the next board meeting and possibly even vote on that.
Do you,
Well, you mean the policy or the decision?
The
And I think
dec-
the decision should be an
I think
administrative.
it's administrative.
No, I don't think it should be.
you think it should be the board decide which
Well, we
categories?
have
The policy.
a policy on
Okay,
this.
yeah.
And so
That I agree with, yeah.
why can't we just,
You could add it there, Bill. You could add it under the acceptable use of information and communication technology.
Right.
There's a space for it.
and I'm just saying it as an option. Other board members may not agree with me. But at times like this, oftentimes it makes it easier for teachers, supervisors like yourself, to be able to say, I'm sorry, but this is a policy.
Yeah.
Right.
This has been decided. And that takes away the argument.
That's a good point.
And this may be something in which if the community is behind it and teachers aren't seeing a use in it, that we add this to our
Well, I think
social media policy.
if the decision was made, like you said too, I think you would have to update the policy by its
Yeah.
very nature. Like,
Right.
it would conflict.
Right.
So either way, if this were to be done, I think it would have to be the next board meeting, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
We'd have to move that one up in review.
So do you think it falls under, I was reading the acceptable use. And it does,
Don't we have a student social media policy?
we have one
We have a
social media,
social
but it's
media
mostly
Social media
staff.
policy, but it's mostly about
It's
staff.
staff. It's mostly
Okay.
staff.
We have another,
But doesn't the staff one allow for student
No,
Facebook
it's
groups?
mostly staff, like staff shouldn't be friending students.
Right, but I
They
thought
should
that
be linked to
there
their
was,
personal,
Yeah,
their work email.
But this one
but it
says.
it allowed Facebook groups for
Right.
students.
We'd have to change that.
If you agree, it says in the acceptable use of information and communications technology, it says under the first policy blurb, the superintendent shall be responsible for developing and implementing administrative procedures concerning the following. I don't even know what that is.
That's Child Information Protection
Okay. Access by minors to inappropriate matter on the internet and the World Wide Web. I don't know if you consider social media inappropriate. I could easily consider it inappropriate.
I mean, the fact is though, if we allow access to social media without filtering the content,
Mhm.
I mean, that's the real key here.
Yeah.
Could we filter the content of a social media site? And the answer is, of course, yes, but it would have to be, you could filter so that only school-run social media sites would be approved.
Yeah, because.
But that would be really difficult.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
we
that
can't, because of SSL, we can't allow Winter School Facebook and not Facebook. So if we block on student Chromebooks, it would be carte blanche blocking. And again, I think the longer term answer, way beyond one board meeting, would be what Nikki described, which is you're kind of sending mixed messages when you're putting everything out on Facebook and only using the website for newsletters. The ideal scenario would be the way our vision was, and some schools were doing it, some others weren't, and now very few are, which is you post everything on the website natively first, and then it reposts to social media. So that somebody's, but then everything would be on the website too. The question that Bill's saying, I don't think you're in Dutch with the policy, the way I read that, if it was decided. But I do agree with what Bill said about having the backing of the board.
Yeah, no, I agree as
By
well.
making that decision.
But then we
I'm
need
just
to
trying
go,
to quicken it.
yeah.
That's
Right,
But then we need to go back and adjust the staff social media because it says that
Yes, you have
professional
to make
social
some minor
media is a
modifications.
work-related social media activity that is either school-based with a principal establishing a Facebook page for his school, or a teacher establishing a blog for his or her class, or non-school based Facebook group for athletics. So
I mean, this
we
is
need
a.
to get rid of, like, it's
Yeah.
pervasive.
This is
Yeah.
a complicated issue, and I'm not saying that next week we're going to pass it, but I think that if it's a direction we want to take, we could start with it on an administrative level, and then allow the tech department to begin to enact it, and then, look at the policy and clean up the contradictions and give the support of the board through policy. And I really like what Kate said. I mean, I think that kind of hits it on the head, is that we're not going to be 100% protecting kids from social media. We can't do that. It's not possible today. But it's that statement that these are school-bought devices and they are for educational purpose. And
I also am concerned that we're one of the few schools that allow this. That most other schools.
Most schools block it.
Yeah, I mean,
Now,
that's like.
sometimes there's grade cutoffs, right? So
Yeah.
they'll open it for high school, they'll block it for elementary, in some it's K-12. But most schools, we are one of the most open SUs around.
I think we need to look at that.
Yeah.
I like the fact that we're.
You like it?
Well, I just like, I mean, I respect that we need to look at banning this, but that's contrary to what I think. I really want to trust our students. I want to teach them appropriate use and.
Digital citizenship.
Yeah.
And
But it's also become excessively dangerous, so it kind of goes like, I'm conflicted.
Yeah, and I agree with you at the same time with a 6-year-old
Right.
with control issues. I mean, there is an age issue, and the age issue, especially with social media, is most of the students have to be are supposed to be 13 and using it anyway. So that is an easy cutoff.
And that,
By the way, I have no way of predetermining what the administrative team will decide or the board will back. But if anybody cares, we can do a K-12, we can do it based on grade, we can do it any way you want.
So I could bring back a recommendation next month, what the administrators feel and what the teaching staff feels.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to hear
Yeah.
more. I don't want to make
Can
a
you
gut
also just
decision on
bring
this.
back information on what schools are doing it and, you know?
I did some research. No school that I contacted has an open network. We're the only one.
Okay.
Which
It's
is,
been this way.
which is, yeah.
Which I'm kind of
Social media.
proud of. I
And
mean,
you want to teach kids safe use of
Exactly.
social media. I guess the question is, do they have to have access to it to teach them?
right.
Right?
And having the opt-in, you know, if it was blocked
We could do
to
that.
begin with, and
Mhm.
parents are sent with that initial paperwork on the first day of school, that,
I think one thing that's different, Rebecca, is that when we were open, we've always had a really good bandwidth. A lot of schools and SUs have struggled with bandwidth. So that was never a concern. And then also, I think the ubiquity of phones has made it less necessary for the school network to be open. Because as some of you have said, is that they're just gonna use their phone anyway. If they wanna see the sports score, they're gonna pull out their phone and look on Instagram and like it. It's not as necessary. For example, 8 years ago, very few students were walking around with phones, just pretty much high schoolers. Now they're ubiquitous, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
5th graders, 4th graders with
Yeah.
phones.
I am concerned though about the opt-in. I know I shouldn't say this, or, you know, some people would react, but at first I said, no, the opt-in is a good idea. But you may have, you know, some savvy kids being able to get their parents to sign these forms and without them even realizing what is it that they're signing. I'm just concerned about the opt-in, but
Another
I
thing-
think your teachers will probably be better able to respond to that, you know, so.
You could decide to opt in at the 6-8 or the 9-12 level. It could be blocked, for example, without an opt-in, pre-K-8, and then if that's what they wanted to do. My point is you have a lot of granular ability with the system we have now.
Yeah.
Your
it
job.
is
It is
10
your job to report back.
let me see, it's 9 minutes after 9 o'clock. And I
We
would
still
like
have
to
a
be
lot.
able to go home this evening. And I think maybe a few other people here would like to as well. So I want to thank everyone for all of this conversation. Our administrators are going to have a meeting regarding a recommendation for the board for our next meeting. And it will be probably top of our discussion at our next meeting. So I want to thank everyone. And we are moving on to item G, C70, restraint and seclusion policy review. And that is, let me see, I think that's a first reading, yes. So that is a first reading. Everyone received it in their board packet. Are there, we still have to go through at least a second reading. So are there any questions or concerns? Otherwise, we can wait for our next, yes.
I know you want to get out of here. I feel like this is the bare minimum. And I don't know, that my family's been traumatized by restraint and seclusion in our schools. And this is traumatic to me. But I guess I'd really like to beef this out. I think one of the things that's severely lacking from this is some way, because it lists the procedures that have to be followed. So the policy is essentially a list of procedures that administration needs to develop. And there's nothing about fixing the harm that's caused by restraint and seclusion. Because restraint and seclusion for students is traumatizing. And a single restraint and seclusion can cause further restraints and seclusions because the student is going to behave in a traumatized way. And then you get to a point where you're just restraining and secluding the student weekly, and there's no reparation in this policy. There's no healing. And it's so damaging that it's just mind-boggling to me that there's no healing process. I also feel like, the state's talking about getting rid of seclusion. I don't see any reason that any child should ever be secluded. It's damaging. And some students don't recover. And to cause that harm in our schools, to me, is so I would really like to see this beefed out. I feel like it's too personal for me to be involved in, and that's where I am.
Okay, thank you.
So seclusion is a complicated, as a teacher who has run an alternative classroom, did seclusions and restraints daily just to keep myself from being stabbed. Of course, none of these students I had in my program should have been anywhere near public school, but that was a whole nother issue. I'm fine with looking at it more closely.
Yeah. I just because it says that students can be, so I dug into everything, and students can be secluded or restrained. Restraints have to happen first, but the threshold is that somebody needs to feel at risk. But there's no, a 5-year-old is a risk and needs to be secluded. No, and and that really bothers me that this doesn't address, the policy doesn't highlight the trauma that this causes. And I'm not sure that personnel in our school understand the trauma that it causes.
Well, I'm hoping, and this may not be the case, I'm hoping teachers who are doing restraints are CPI trained or equivalent.
They have
I mean, that's, they
Yeah,
have to be.
They have to be.
Um,
But that doesn't mean they can just say, I felt it nature.
The definition of imminent risk and harm has become more highlighted. We just had our 4,500 updated training from the AOE, which reflects back to pre-COVID interventions, which is where they did mention that there was some move to not have seclusion as an option any longer. And that was before, only during COVID, we used seclusion more than restraints because of the risk of transmission and not knowing everything and whatnot. But that they were very clear, and I think we have been crystal clear in the past couple of years, especially, that what constitute imminent risk of harm to themselves, to staff, and to students. so that we minimize any hands-on intervention that needs to happen. We just actually are going to be spending a considerable amount of time, spent a considerable amount of time in the past month updating, looking at a new program that is different than CPI. It's called Safety Care. That is more based on consent models and actually more aligned with some of the student population we see that needs physical intervention, more about keeping them safe, students on the spectrum as they be, to guide, to move, and the emphasis being on releasing and not holding, not looking at seclusion as an option.
Well, that's good.
So, and I think that we're moving that way.
It's really
so
good because CPI definitely has some.
Yeah, we made a big switch this summer, which took it's a little scrambling, I'll just share, that of
A lot of scrambling.
a lot of an overhaul, which when we also trained 6 staff members in the SU to be trainers. So then in each building, we can hold to the fidelity and consistency that we need. So that has been a huge shift for us. So I think that the conversation is there, people are equally concerned. And I know some of this is straight from the law, which has to be,
Right.
Right.
I
And
just
then-
would like this to be broadened, to be more reflective of what we're trying to do.
And it could be addressed in the procedures.
It could be.
Which Kate and I
Yeah.
were working on today. We could.
Yeah, and
But
I
this
guess
is this
part
is
of
a
me-
first reading, and so
It is,
I
and
have
part
no
of me
problem.
wants the procedures of this attached to the policy.
So we'll
so
bring
that
those
people
next
can
time.
find it.
Okay.
We were, Katie and I were working on those today, but we want to, based on what we're hearing, probably add something around.
And I think with that, some of those procedures are going to morph depending on what goes through the legislature, especially around seclusion. And other states are moving to ban restraint and seclusion altogether. And I think that, and my opinion being, I think we're heading there.
Yeah, and I think it's shocking, like the Valley News had an article on this.
Oh, they did, and that was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, and so I feel like this policy is the bare minimum. And I feel like we need to have, I would like to see a reparations part of the policy. And then I'd also like the procedures to be attached to the policy so that parents can find that information.
And one of the things I was also thinking is maybe this is a conversation that Ethan Lawrence should be part of, because when we're talking about reparations, I think that he may be a voice that can really speak to that. So I agree, Nikki, and I think that let's do this right, because you're right, it is traumatizing. And
I feel like that needs to be stated at the beginning.
Beth has her hand raised.
Thank you. I just, I agree totally with what you're saying, Nikki, and I've just seen it on the other end too. This year, been working with a student, and his homeroom teacher has been hit, things thrown at, kicked, and beaten daily by a student, and she's traumatized. She cries almost every day because of this student, and so I think we just need to be really aware that it goes both ways in this situation as well. And that I really like this idea, Rebecca, that you brought up around reparations, because I think it's both ways in that we need to go deeper. And I don't think, seclusion is the answer, absolutely, as well. But just being aware that staff are being traumatized as well in these situations, and that it is, they're just no good either way. And there's a lot of work to be done before you get to these types of situations to try to negotiate that.
Exactly, and there are other students in the situation who are also being traumatized. Where I am, we've had at least 3 shelter in place because of behavior of students. And it affects everyone in an entire school.
This is why we need reparations.
Yes. And Davis, and then we need to move on to our items for action.
Yep. Yeah, having worked in a couple of different specialized settings where restraints and in some, you know, really difficult case seclusion were used. I mean, I agree with everything that is being said here. You can't use enough of a fine-tooth comb with this. I think that bringing in considerations about reparations, about restorative justice, particularly in that addresses all of these sides, you know, as Beth kind of brought up, there are, when there is physical harm kind of happening, people are traumatized, and regardless of whether you are a student or an instructor or support staff or a peer or whatever. So I think, I think that bringing in a DEI angle to this would make sense, insofar as restorative justice touches upon that. But I'd also like to see some of the procedures and processes that are being referenced here, because it's kind of hard to conceptualize what a lot of this means without getting into that granular detail. And I mean, this is an important enough policy that I think we should really understand what we're talking about.
Exactly. Thank you, Davis. And thank you, Nikki and Bill and Beth. So this will be on our next agenda. Moving on, we have items for action. And before we can have our DEI coordinator consult on policy work, we have to appoint our DEI coordinator. So I will take a motion to approve the appointment of Ethan Lawrence as our
Coordinator of
Diversity,
Equity, and Inclusion.
Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Coordinator.
It's
Yeah.
after 8.
After 8, I know.
Yeah.
So I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Okay, Davis made the
Second.
motion, and
We're fighting over this one.
Nikki seconded that motion. I am going, and are there any further comments or considerations? Thank you. I am going to go with the roll call. I'm going to start in the room. Rebecca.
Aye.
Nikki.
Aye.
Bill.
Aye.
And online, Anne Marie.
Aye.
Beth.
Aye.
Colleen.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
Nancy. Nancy, did you say aye?
She can't.
Okay.
Oh, she can't talk either. Okay.
That's okay. You raised your hand. Thumbs up? Okay. We're good. So. thank
I hear you, Nancy. The remote people hear you.
So bizarre.
That is so weird.
And frustrating.
Okay. So thank you very much. And I am excited to announce the approval of the appointment of Ethan Lawrence as our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Coordinator. Yay. We have work to do, and we appreciate Ethan coming on board to assist. Next item for action is the engaging Vermont School Board Association to conduct our superintendent search.
I'll second.
Okay, so that was Nicole made the motion and Rebecca seconded that motion. I will go through the roll call again, starting in the room.
Aye.
Rebecca? Aye.
Aye.
Nicole?
Aye.
Bill? Anne Marie?
Aye.
Beth?
I'm going to abstain. I had to run away and tuck a child in during that time period.
Okay. And Colleen?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
And Nancy, a thumbs up? Thank you. It has been approved to engage Vermont School Board Association in our superintendent search. I will contact Sue Siglowski, and we will get things in motion. And I will let everyone know at our next meeting what our next steps are, what the first step of the facilitation. So thank you, everyone. And it is now time to set our next agenda.
Can we approve the CIP before you do that?
Oh,
Just formally.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
I think Angie sent it to you.
Yeah, I did send it to you. The only change I made was in the resources, I had repeated leader and me in both boxes. And I had to put director of curriculum instructional coach for our reading goal. You may recall it was a safe and healthy schools goal for leader and me implementation, and then a reading goal for our academic goal. And so
Okay.
that's curriculum director, instructional coach, and title funds, not ESSER funds.
Okay.
You need a formal.
I don't know how y'all do it, but just note in the
So it's
meeting,
the
in the
CIP
notes that it was,
Continuous improvement plan.
yeah, that's the FY23 continuous improvement, Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union continuous improvement plan.
I will take a motion to approve the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union fiscal year 23 continued improvements.
Continuous
improvement plan.
So moved. Davis.
Davis, thank you.
Second, Beth.
Beth Roy, thank you. And I'm going to start with are there any questions or concerns? I'm going to start with online, beginning with Anne Marie.
Aye.
Beth.
Aye.
Colleen.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
Nancy, thumbs up. Rebecca.
Aye.
Nicole.
Aye.
And Bill.
Aye.
It has been approved.
Yay,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And now we go on to setting the agenda.
Okay, I've got administrative report under,
Okay.
and then I've got items for discussion, hiring employment policy, update on no small matter, sub-pay increase, recommendation on social media policy, or acceptable use, whichever one makes more, or both. Restraint and seclusion, second reading, and we'll bring the procedures along with that policy next time.
Okay, that will be another full meeting. Lovely.
And
Okay. Let me see, who just raised their hand?
That was me.
Oh, David.
One small, and I don't want to overcomplicate this meeting, but a slight addendum to the social media thing. If we're talking about that, a lot of what I heard come up was the communication difficulties that could come from changing that up. Would it be do we need to add to the agenda touching on the communication plan, or can we just assume that'll be part of that discussion?
I think it'll be part of that discussion.
Okay,
I think so.
just
Yeah,
wanted to voice that.
Good point, thank you, David.
Communication plan, okay. Thanks, Davis. I'll add that just in case.
Yeah. Are we in need of executive session? Thank you.
You're welcome.
I will take a motion to adjourn.
Before we, I have a quick admin thing. Can we have, is it possible we could have chat available to just the board members when we do meetings?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't
We
know
will
if you
ask
can.
Larry if that's possible.
Yeah, I realized I had my question, but Larry's gone.
When you click the button, it doesn't tell you.
It just shuts it all off. It doesn't give you the
appears to
option.
shut it all off, but there might be an add-on for it.
Okay,
that
we'll
you
look
could
into
get.
it, Colleen. Thank you.
It would be nice if
if we're busy or there's just times when it would be helpful to have chat.
Yeah.
Because it does not
And
become
I move
a
that
meeting
we
all
adjourn.
in its own, which is why. it is
Yeah, no, I realize it can get taken over and I appreciate that and don't want that. But there are times when I just like to agree with something somebody else said without having to raise my hand and get recognized, or just type a short thing that helps me. If I'm remote, I have a little bit of a bug or I'd be in the room. But anyway,
I feel better.
I'll be fine.
Next
So,
month is the special report, special ed report as well.
The special ed
Yeah.
report, okay.
That's on our
thank you.
schedule. Okay.
Those are so
And did
exciting.
I
They
take
really
a
are.
motion?
Motion
No,
to.
motion.
Second.
Rebecca.
Bill, it's the budget
Nicole,
part too.
And
Yes.
all of those in favor, do so.
Aye.
Aye.
Stopping the recording.
Thank you so much.